Through the air, Shapen into the end zone. Wide open for the touchdown is Howe Presley. 38 yards. Baylor pats the lead.
Welcome to Sikkim 365 Radio.
Standing alongside Hall in the gun. On the jet sweep, Puka Nacua with space. And Nacua across midfield. Nacua breaking away. A dream start to the season for BYU.
Sikkim 365 Radio is presented by IdealMRI.com. High-quality MRIs for $497 or less. IdealMRI.com. Your health is important, so is your budget.
Worthy standing on. He's on 35. Blocked! Swallowed! Engulfed! Picked up! And it's Robinson! Keelan Robinson! Texas on the board!
Sikkim 365 Radio is also brought to you by Texas Farm Bureau Insurance, protecting Texans since 1952.
Golish on the left side of that shot. Here's Hooker, got a blocker, and he's got 6. Touchdown, Tennessee and Hendon Hooker.
Have you subscribed to our YouTube channel? Search 365 Sports on YouTube. Brought to you by TFNB, your bank for life.
Toon will keep it. Makes the break. It is in the end zone. Touchdown, Houston.
Now here's David Smoak, Paul Catalina, and Craig Smoak.
It is Hump Day, Wednesday, and it is September the 7th. 365 Sports and Sikkim 365 Radio. Paul Catalina to my left, Craig Smoak to my right, David Smoak. And a lot going on, including a couple of little stories involving the Big 12 TV. Brett Yormark visiting one of the incoming schools into the Big 12. Of course, the 4 include Houston, Brigham Young, and also UCF and Cincinnati. And then a note or two, Ross Dellinger on a meeting tomorrow in Dallas when it comes to the college football playoff. And we'll get to some of the bullet points of what they will try to see if they can at least get done or start to get done. Hope you've had a really good day. Thank you for your time every single afternoon at 3 o'clock. And here is Justin Williams. He covers Cincinnati football. In a tweet from earlier today that Brett Yormark on potential future expansion and what types of schools would be addictive to the Big 12 moving forward. Obviously, going out west is where I would like to go, entering that 4th time zone, a program that has national recognition. He then added this quote from Brett Yormark, the Big 12 commissioner, on extending the Big 12's TV contract with Fox and ESPN. That process has started. I met with ESPN last week, had great meetings with them. I think we're very aligned and like-minded in where we want to go in the future. I'll be meeting with Fox in the next week to gauge their interest. Obviously, these are conversations to explore if it's in everyone's best interest to go early, to gain clarity. My gut tells me that both Fox and ESPN would like to do that, but I'll know for sure once I meet with Fox in the next week.
Yeah, not too surprising from what we've seen from Brett Yormark that he's as candid as he can be about it. And, saying he wants to go out west. I mean, does that mean the Pac-12? Maybe. Does it mean San Diego State or somebody like that? Maybe. But, that's definitely where it would make the most sense for them to go. And they would be – I mean, look, if that's what the Big Ten is doing right there in every time zone. The SEC is not, but that doesn't really matter. But – the ACC is not, but the Big 12 and the Big 10 could be the two conferences that are in every time zone. And if you want to, compete with the big dogs, you're not really going to compete with the SEC based on what they've got going and their gigantic propaganda machine that's 30 years old. But if you can match the strategy of somebody who's working for, then maybe that can put you, solidly on that third level.
Yeah, I mean, it was interesting comments to see him so forthright, but he's kind of been that way the entire time since he, became commissioner, even before he, officially got into the role and was just announced. I thought his other quote about not only the process having started, but basically just flat out saying, like, we'd like to go west. I mean, that's just pretty, again, forthright is the word that comes to mind. I mean, that's just full-blown saying, like, yeah, you can narrow it down, and we kind of already had an idea of that's the direction that they were looking, but I've seen a lot of reactions of, like, what even is the new Big 12? He's talking about cultural fits. It said a guy, Matt Brown, a second ago, I just seen a tweet of, what exactly is a culture? I'd honestly love to hear more what constitutes a Big 12 cultural fit. What is the shared cultural identity across what the league is now? And that's a good question. I mean, I don't know. It's kind of a hodgepodge, a mixed mash of teams. But Brett Yormark obviously sees something that he likes out west, and whether that's the Arizona Wildcats program and what parts fit with what they're looking to do in the future, or if that's somebody else, San Diego State or something that we're not aware of, whoever, he's clearly got his eyes locked in on some. And, if you're the Pac-12 or you're, out west, I think your eyebrows were raised this morning or when you saw those quotes, or today when you saw those quotes. So just curious, how much deeper and detailed we get into those quotes before, some triggers start getting pulled.
That's a quote or two, thanks to Justin Williams. I spoke with him a little bit earlier just to clarify. Yes, Yormark in Cincinnati on campus today, and they had a chance to kind of get a note or two from him. And then tomorrow in Dallas, the college football playoff people who last Friday put that big, huge chunk of news out about how they have worked it out with who will be a part of whatever number they get to, 12, or maybe they go backwards or they go forwards, whatever it is, but it's moving forward. It's going to be 2026 for sure. The question is, could it be earlier? Here's Ross Dellinger and a tweet from him earlier. Now, I want to go over each one of these little bullet points. We want all the college football to expand early, work on that. Begin in Dallas. It's tomorrow. A fractured group must compromise on unresolved issues. Leave that up. Game times, revenue distribution, media rights, bowls, and athlete pay. Game times, because we've discussed this, and Brando has made this comment. Chuck Cooperstein has made this comment to us. We've made this comment that college football gave up some critical days, middle to late of December, to the NFL. Now they got to figure out when they can play, how many first-round or second-round playoff games there's going to be as they move forward and win.
Yeah, I mean, that's big decisions. Can I ask you guys a question, though? I was dabbling around in different, podcasts over the weekend, just trying to get everybody's take, and I came across one from Stephen Godfrey, and he was, excited, I think, about the opening weekend, best I could tell. But he also brought up a really good point of, why is all this happening right now? Like, what are they doing?
They're overshadowing the season.
Yeah.
Well,
they have all this news right now.
But do you think they're going to keep that where no one else will find out?
Well, no, not with their current group.
The question was, why did they do it on Friday right before the first full weekend? They could have waited until maybe Monday. I don't know. But, yeah, there's a little bit. I've seen that thought process as well.
Yeah, like we talked about, we also talked about games. Like, I don't think you have to, you can't only talk about the games and you can't talk about the playoff to be, OG college football fan. I think you could just watch our show last Friday and see how we intermingled it all and didn't distract from the upcoming weekend. But I'm sure there were others out there who were just completely blindsided by the playoff news and completely taken with that. And I think, it's an interesting little side story. But, yeah, I mean, now they've dribbled the ball out and they have to keep dribbling. But that just was the most bizarre timing to drop that when they did. I don't understand that at all. And I just would be curious to be in those backroom meetings of where they're strategizing, which clearly there's 5 different meetings going on and they're all doing their own thing. And then it all just comes together. And that's why it turns out the way that it is. But, this is where you wish everybody was on the same page, because maybe they would have put their heads together and gone, why are we taking away from the fact that the games are actually here now and we're taking all of the conversation as best we can intentionally off of the field and off of the games?
Because they screwed up the release of it a year ago in the spring when there was nothing going on.
Well, I'm sure that there's a PR firm that the CFP has hired that is like, why do you pay us? Why? If we're going to do all this work and then we're just going to have to scramble and do this. Or maybe there's not a PR firm. Maybe there's just a couple people that they're like, all right, write a press release and go. Because, sometimes, especially with the conferences, we know that they're not making the best decisions on their messaging. So it wouldn't surprise me if, that was part of the disaster is they just don't care about the PR.
Back to the bullet points of Ross Dellinger, but a very good point on that. One, game dates. They have given up some quality game dates, some days during the week. They've given that up because the NFL has just sucked in a bunch of those Saturdays in December, Thursdays, Saturdays, Sundays, Mondays, and they're not giving that back. So that's the first thing. You got to figure that out. Number two, the revenue distribution. Now be ready for this one. Whatever is the original time or the original amount of money with the college football playoff that's being evenly distributed. Now, the group of five gets more, I believe. I don't know how much more, and if I'm wrong, I'm wrong, but I think they get more than the group of five, the Power Five does. But this would then be not that money, but the new incoming revenue, whatever that might be. Bob Thompson has talked about how it could end up being some sort of a $2 billion deal. Whatever that money is going to be with the new expansion. If the SEC and Big Ten, there is a chance you might have unequal revenue distribution from that money. No one has told me that. Nobody has confirmed that. I spoke with an athletic administrator on the way to the show today who said this would be part of the new money, if it even happens, as far as they have, like, let's say the Big Ten and SEC have a bigger chunk. It also could do like they do in men's basketball, where you get a slash for every team that is in the tournament, and then every team that advances, and then every team all the way through. Your conference makes more money because they have more nuggets, so they have more chips. That could also be the case when it comes to revenue distribution.
Yeah, they've got there's a lot of different ways to do that. And that's probably, I would think, over game dates and everything else and academics, the who's going to get more money will be the most bitter fight. That's the one where guys are going to walk out of the room and be like, all right, well, we can wait till tomorrow on this as they get close. And that's probably the SEC and Big Ten doing that. And then the other three Power Five conferences and everyone else going, well, we got to get this done. So I eventually they'll have to acquiesce on some of that, but I would think it'd be smart for them to stand their ground so the chasm doesn't grow any further than it has to, revenue-wise.
Yeah, I don't know about the money part and how all that operates. I would be shocked, though, if there's too much of a disparity. I mean, what purpose would that serve for the others outside of those two conferences? Mm-hmm. Just bend the knee and be happy that you got the invitation. I see a lot of everyman college football commentators that try to just basically tell the Big 12 fans and the Pac-12 fans, just eat what we serve you and you'll like it. I don't pretend to be everyman, but I'm a lot more everyman than that. I think everybody should at least have a fair shake. And I think that they're starting to move in that direction. But, yeah, as far as how they do revenue splits, I mean, that's how you can get off the sideways real quickly and really kind of blow this thing up. But, you've got two conferences that obviously are kind of on one level and everybody else is on another level. And how much of that balance they're able to keep will be fascinating, because that is a dangerous trek to have to maneuver around. So we'll see.
Here is what Ross wrote in his story today. For some, this is a top issue to solve. Currently, the CFP distributes about 80% of its annual $600 million of revenue to the Power Five leagues and roughly 20% to the Group of Five. Conferences get $6 million bonus payment for every qualifying semifinal team and $4 million for each team playing in a non-playoff CFP bowl, the four bowls outside of the Fiesta, Cotton, Orange, Sugar, whatever on. At the center of negotiations, specifically the 80% cut going to the Power Five. In light of realignment and the composition change in leagues, the Power Five revenue distribution is in for some adjustment. Many believe in why. You now have the Power Two, says one source familiar with the talks. Big Ten, SEC have now not only dominated the event, but the conferences have swelled to 16 teams. So there is a little bit of that's going to have to be discussed. Now, I would think they would never have released Friday without some of these conferences, Group of Five, Power Five, whoever is not SEC or Big Ten, had to know that could be a part of the discussions, but they still have to figure that out. I discussed it with an athletic administrator. He said, listen, if I was the SEC and the Big Ten, I would want more as well, because in a way, everybody was thrown a life raft. I never thought there would be a Power 2 that would only decide the national championship. I still don't think that ever will happen. I could be wrong. But they all were given a little bit of a big life raft. When that came out on Friday, that made everybody, when they start in August, a chance they can win or get to play for the national championship.
Yeah, and we know that they'll kind of nitpick about everything, the Big Ten and the SEC, but the fact that they're in on this means it's going to happen. So I think that most of the worries, I mean, those things that, those 6 things they have to get done is certainly, you're going to be a challenge, but the fact that they voted on it's going to happen means that, the worst of our worries, I believe, is out of the way.
All right, so you see that. That's another part of it. The other bullet point that Ross Dellinger brought up, put the graphic back up, Garrett, if you don't mind. Media rights. What's ESPN going to do? Are they going to give up any of that? Are they going to get all of it? Are they going to get the first couple of years? If they start early in 24, 25 instead of 26, does ESPN get to keep all of it as far as the games? Or will there be some possible movement where Fox gets a little bit of a twig or so in the first year or two? Or how will they distribute those games? Which networks? Because right now ESPN has all of it.
Yeah, I think that's going to be really, really interesting to see, again, why? Okay, I think that's probably the other thing that will make it 2026, just because it would be really hard for me to see ESPN, having this pole position here on it and not being able to capitalize on having all of it and try to do all that, unless they don't want to pay all that money. They want to share some of the financial burden. But I would think that it's better for college football to have it distributed across. And especially if I'm maybe one of the new Big Ten partners, I might want to be involved in that in some way as well. Because if they're going to do what the NFL does, which is what the Big Ten did, and what I'm sure other conferences may try to follow suit, is all of the partners in the NFL get a playoff game or 2.
And eventually the bigger ones get a Super Bowl game.
Yeah.
That's the carrot, to put all that money in, because every 3 or 4 or 5 years you might be able to broadcast the lucrative, amazing amount of money they make with broadcasting a Super Bowl. All right, another nugget on Ross Dellinger's list.
That's probably the one that I care about the absolute least.
Me too.
I do not give a damn about the networks and, what they want or who they're going to broadcast and all that. I mean, it was interesting when you're talking about TV deals and, who all is the Big Ten going to be on. But, yeah, as far as they're jostling for the playoff, I want to see the games. I don't care if it's a Fox guy telling me about them or an ESPN guy. I do not care.
Both.
I do not care.
Or both. The bowl games. Many of the residing east of the Mississippi and south of the Mason-Dixon line want to hear no more about the Rose Bowl's wishes as it relates to a football postseason. And yet, here we are. As written last July, the Rose Bowl wants to remain as a traditional date of January 1st because their you-know-what doesn't stink. So there's that. Put that up again, Garrett, if you don't mind, the bullet points, the bowl games, and how do they work with that, whether it's the Rose Bowl, who are they attached to, if anything else? And then the student-athlete revenue sharing, and, of course, is, we've seen NIL, we've seen a lot. There may be, and probably will be, some give and take on the athletes getting a piece of what is the college football playoff expansion money and how they will distribute that.
All right. One, the CFP of the Rose Bowl thing is not about the actual game. They don't really care when the game is, as long as the parade is the same day, which is, the game is secondary to them. They care about that stupid parade, and it's stupid that we have to keep going through this year after year because of a parade. But 2, on the athletes, Craig, they're going to have to give them some money, because part of the problem we see now with athletes in the postseason is they're going to leave. And even with the college football playoff expansion, you'll see people leave. If you give them money, then maybe they're more likely to stay and play in those postseason games as opposed to hopping to the NFL already.
First of all, in the Rose Bowl, I think it's just kind of a silly thing at this point. Like the fact that it throws around its weight. It's just the Rose Bowl. It's just kind of like, I get the setting's fantastic. I get there's a lot of, fans that love the magical nature of the Rose Bowl and, sunset behind a great football game like Texas and USC and all of that. But yeah, like just the fact that they're like an entity in this is just it's kind of funny to me. And not being somebody who's like Big Ten, Pac-12 guy who grew up on the West Coast, like it's even funnier. But I'm sure it's a cool place to watch a game and all of that. But what?
No.
To the other part of that, I mean, they're, Paul, not going to have to do it for all the reasons you said. They're going to have to do it because otherwise the sport is going to crumble under lawsuits and, all of those types of things. I mean, they have basically lasted as long as they possibly can, going the route of not paying players. And then they've now the last several years, because they were basically forced to, found ways to disseminate money in, the proper fashion. That's not, $10,000 in an envelope in your locker after the big win. They've tried to, be more forthcoming about all of the ways they're trying to provide money and all of the different things they're setting up to provide money. And all of that is great. But they're only doing it because they have to at this point. And they're only going to do this because they have to at this point. Because what else are you going to say where all that money is going? Because the money's only getting larger and larger. And the argument for why you haven't been paying them all along has only grown weaker and weaker to the point where there really is no argument that exists now anymore that makes sense for why you don't. So,
and if it gets close to $2 billion annually.
I mean, regardless, I mean, it doesn't matter what the total is. I mean, I think that they've got to pay these guys no matter what. And if you are, if it was $1 billion for an expanded playoff, you're telling me we're playing more games now and you're still not going to pay players out of this big pool of money that you're getting? But yeah, especially having now signed these new deals, you see one conference alone making over $1 billion. You add in all the travel arguments, and if you're an athlete at USC, I think you got a pretty good case that you could take of why are we not getting paid like we are employees, and why are we? So, I mean, the arguments have just run out at this point, and they've gotten so greedy and so money consumed to the point where now you're just throwing out geography and all these things to the side just to simply make more money and get more TV and more all that. I mean, where's all that money going to go? I mean, what are they going to do with it at this point, and how are they going to argue against why that shouldn't go to the athletes who are helping create this entire thing to begin with? So, yeah, it's inevitable. I mean, they're going to have to do this. I think this was obviously a part of the plans of Kevin Warren as, he was navigating questions while they were negotiating that deal about how this would ultimately affect the athletes and all those things. I think this is something that the bright minds in college football have had to have known was coming down the pipeline. And, don't seem to be blindsided by it. I think they seem to understand this time around of like, there's no going back, especially with all the money that's out there being publicly talked about. So, yeah, that's going to happen. And to what extent, though, will be very interesting. Are guys getting rich off that solely, or is it one of those everybody gets $500, kind of a thing? That's what I'm curious to see.
Kalani Sitake, Brigham Young head coach, will join us live today at 3:30. Dennis Dodd of CBS Sports may be on some of what we've discussed today at 4 for a real short hit with him. We'll have Jeff Howe on Texas, Rob Sellers on the University of Houston, Brent Hubbs on Tennessee, Pittsburgh game, John Machota on the Cowboys. The NFL season opens tomorrow night, and then Paul Catalina's top 5 as well. Don't forget, we'll be on tonight on the CW channel at 10:30, every weeknight, 10:30, 365 Sports on the CW channel. So we've given you the quote or two from your mark. We've given you the bullet points for the college football playoff meetings going on tomorrow in Dallas. Texas Buckeye, guys, the Rose Bowl had 16.5 million homes watching. I'm going to tell you something, Texas Buckeye. You're right. It is a phenomenal tradition. They are no longer in the position, no matter whatever they make, to dictate that they have to play their game at this specific time on this specific day, or they will be left out of the championship rotation. Their power, yes, eyeballs. No question. Incredible tradition. The parade and all that. It's a new era. They should be a part of the rotation, but they're going to have to be able to open up their eyes and listen. They will not be able to say, we will only play at this particular time if they're a part of the college football championship rotation.
Yeah, I mean, I have an immense amount of respect for the history of that game and all that, but I think that's basically what it is like you're not so powerful and so special that you get to just kind of dictate things, as though you are on equal footing with all of the other entities that are a part of this. That's, I think, basically where we're coming from. Is it's not like, oh, well, the presidents are deciding and the networks are deciding and the Rose Bowl's deciding. I think the Rose Bowl's deciding to some extent, but certainly not on the level of all the other power brokers. At least I have no reason to believe that they are, and any idea that they are just does seem kind of foolish because, well, it's not as much up to them as maybe they or whoever is trying to portray.
All right, so there is what we have for the start of the show today. The chat room is rolling along, 365 Sports. Have we gotten to the number? Yes, we have. We hit 24,000 subscribers. Thank you. Hit the like button if you can. Spread the word if you can. And then, of course, as well, the text line is open at 254-339-1122. When we come back, Brigham Young head football coach Kalani Sitake next as they host Baylor late Saturday evening or night, Sikkim 365 Radio and 365 Sports. Waco Custom Marketplace, first of all, no matter what their specials are during the week, each week, a great place for whatever you do when it comes to tailgate product because they have everything you need from charcoal to what you need when it comes to beef, pork, poultry, and also seafood. They also, if you need, they have sweets and treats with their full, constantly open, not 24 hours a day, but their bakery that is always baking something fresh for you. Here is what they have for this week. Fresh salmon fillet at $14.75 a pound. Snack sticks at $5.99 a pound. Country-style ring sausage at $2.50 a pound. Fresh chicken tenders, $4.15 a pound. Chicken thighs and bone-in pork chops at $2.25 a pound. Top sirloin steak at $5.25 a pound. T-bone at $7.99 a pound. The porterhouse steak at $8.25 a pound. They have seasoning. They have marinade. They have sauces. They have all the knickknacks you need from a regular grocery store. And they have a full-fledged bakery and butcher shop for you if you want to turn in your order for the next game. Baylor plays at home or whoever you are, if you want to use them as your tailgate supply and place where you pick up your product at 425 Lake Air Drive in Waco.
Looking for a great job with great pay and awesome benefits? Genco FCU is hiring. As a longtime Waco employer, Genco focuses on what matters most in our employees' lives, like pay incentives, bonuses, benefits, 401k plans, paid time off, advancement opportunities, medical, prescription, dental, and vision insurance, as well as short and long-term disability. Come join our incredible team today and make Genco your career that will work for you. Apply at gencofcu.org or at any branch location.
Hi, I'm Mark Stewart with Bird Colgan Ford. It's that time of year. It's football season. And BK Ford is a proud supporter of the best high school football teams in Texas, right here in Central Texas. BK Ford is proud to sell the #1 truck in Texas, the F-Series truck. Led by our leading rusher, the F-150, 45 years in a row. Lock in your best price and rate today by custom ordering your new F-150 at BK Ford. Simple, easy, trusted. Experience better at Bird Colgan Ford.
Camille Johnson Realtors guide you seamlessly through the process of buying your dream home or selling your current one. Commercial, farm and ranch, or residential, Camille Johnson Realtors can smoothly and successfully lead you through any transaction. With a team of 28 experienced agents who are excited about serving you, Camille Johnson Realtors services the entire greater Waco area. If you're in the market to buy or sell, contact Camille Johnson Realtors, 104 Midway Center in Woodway, or find them online at www.camillejohnson.com. Camille Johnson Realtors, elegant, charming, warm. Welcome home.
At Ideal MRI, we feel blessed to be part of the Waco community. We're a small family business here in Central Texas. At times like this, the cost of healthcare has never been more important. And unfortunately, significant illnesses and injuries still occur. And that's why Ideal MRI is open and here to serve you through this difficult time. So if you need an MRI, ask your doctor about Ideal MRI. You can schedule online in minutes at idealmri.com or call 833-IDEAL-MRI.
Hey, this is Bryce Petty, former starting quarterback and two-time Big 12 champion, and I know firsthand the importance of being in top shape both on and off the field. So listen up, men. If you're feeling beat down day in and day out and looking for that high-performance edge that separates the men from the boys, then look no further than the Petty Clinic Low T in Waco. Petty Clinic is a comprehensive men's healthcare clinic with an atmosphere catering to men. Board-certified Dr. Kent Petty has a special interest in offering the highest quality medical care to men of all ages. Some of the services offered include screening and treatment for low testosterone or thyroid, infertility, high blood pressure, diabetes, high cholesterol, sleep apnea, while offering comprehensive wellness exams and complete men's health lab panels. High performance men, remember, it's not just a Petty thing. This is Bryce Petty, encouraging you to reach out and Google search Petty Clinic Low T or go to pettycliniclowt.com and get your complimentary lab screening today.
In the market for a quality metal building? Since 1943, Pioneer Steel and Pipe has helped Central Texas residential and commercial customers with metal building design, panel options, building components, and trim options. Pioneer Steel and Pipe's residential line is energy efficient, offers low maintenance, reduces insurance payments, is impact resistant, and carries up to a 45-year limited warranty. In addition, they can also help you find a metal building contractor for your project. Pioneer Steel and Pipe with locations in Waco and Bryan and at pioneersboys.com.
Welcome back to Sikkim 365 Radio.
The 3 o'clock hour is sponsored by Waco Custom Marketplace. Meats, sweets, Texas treats, and a cut above the rest. 425 Lake Air Drive, Waco.
From Provo Cougar fan, Sitake was defensive coordinator and a coach for years at Utah. Utah's Whittingham and Sitake both are former BYU players. And, of course, Kalani Sitake, the head coach at Brigham Young, has spoken with us before. When all the news came down, they were joining the conference the week before they played Baylor, and also in the offseason. We have appreciated our friendship with him, and he joins us now on Sikkim 365 Radio, 365 Sports. Kalani, thanks for your time, Coach. You have a very seasoned and experienced team, and expectations are obviously very, very good. Do you like the way they've handled August and also your opening game route against South Florida?
Yeah, I mean, I've been really proud with our team and just really happy about the leadership that I'm seeing from our players. And so, it worked out for game one. I really enjoyed the month of fall camp with them and seeing the progress that they made from practice one all the way leading up to the game against South Florida. And now we're home for this home opener against a really, really good Baylor team, the conference champs. And so just looking forward to the matchup. But I'm really, really happy with the boys and happy with the way that they're leading, happy with the way that they're connecting with each other. And I think that should happen when you have a lot of returners coming and a lot of veterans on the team. So just try not to get in their way.
A lot of guys on both these teams saw each other last year. Does that familiarity help or hurt, or is there like a balance there?
Well, I think there's a balance. I think we hope that we're different than the guys that played last year. We think we're hopefully a little bit healthier and a little bit stronger. But it was a great eye opener for our guys, and to go against that physical O-line and D-line and overall team, that was for me, it was a great learning experience for our players and our program. And we knew that after that game, we just had a sense that was a really good team. And look what they did. They went on and had a great season and won the conference. And so I mentioned it before earlier this week on the Standard. These are the champs. And so it was a great opportunity for us to measure ourselves and see how we match up to them. Last year, they got the best of us, and we know that we're going to have to play a really, really good, clean game, and the type of game that we want to play. Baylor is going to have something to say against that, but that's the fun matchup of it all. We're familiar with them, they're familiar with us, but at the same time, tons of respect and appreciation for this opportunity for us to play them, and looking forward to it.
Coach, how do you wait out a 2.5-hour weather delay?
Well, for me, I'm not a very patient person, so it was hard for me. That thing lasted forever. I was like, man, and it was like the deal with the weather. I can't control it, so what we can do is focus on what we can control, and that's our emotions and our energy. And so we had to just take a little step back, and it literally happened. We had the team together, got them all geeked up, and I gave my talk and had tons of energy come out of the locker room. Right before we entered the field, they said, "Hey, sorry, we're in a delay." And so I was like, "Oh, you got to be kidding me!" And I'm like, "I got to figure out how to do another talk in a couple hours or whatever." But it was. But the guys are mature and handled themselves the right way, and it happened to be the opening kickoff for our first game, and so we kind of knew that might have been the deal, but. We just didn't think it was going to happen at like those times. Or maybe it would happen during the game sometime, maybe halftime. But the guys, I appreciate them just having a great attitude about it. The guys we wanted them to relax and be ready. And fortunately, they're able to flip that switch on and off.
So you can't just say what I said before. Let's go.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. They're players. I mean, these guys are young men, so I'd like to think that they listen to everything that I said. But who knows? Nowadays, these guys could have been on their headphones and not even heard a word that I said. But I don't really care as long as they're ready to go out and play.
Do you remember, Kalani, your best ever pregame speech? Is there one that maybe you just knew you hit it?
For me,
yes, sir.
No. I just try to keep the kids loose, and I want to focus on them having fun and being at their best self and trying to make sure that they can feel good about their preparation. I feel like if I'm panicked and trying to find some kind of emotion to get them going, then it overrides all the hard work that they put in along the way. So I wanted to just remind them the work that it took to get them to where they're at, how proud I am of them, and let's go out there and have some fun, man. It's just the last second coaching doesn't work. The coaching happens for us from Monday to Friday and then get to the game. So and it comes down to the boys having a good time. I want them to play at their best, and that usually happens when they're enjoying the opportunity to play the game.
Does last year matter at all prepping for this year?
Of course, yeah. You look at the way the players played. I mean, as far as I'm concerned, Opweek is still standing there on the field, so we have to block them. So but you look at the demeanor and the way the program is run from Baylor, from what we saw, and we know that we're going to get their best shot. We just need to make sure that our best shot shows up as well, And so I think for us, there's some knowledge of what they do. Obviously, the scheme may change a little bit here and there, but for the most part, the foundation of that program is the same, and we'd like to think that we have a solid foundation here as well. And then we'll just go out there and let the players settle it on the field. Regardless of the result, there'll be tons of love and appreciation and respect on our part for Baylor and that program and definitely their fans. I mentioned it before. We felt really welcomed when we came there and had that really cool experience. Even though it didn't end up going the way we wanted it to, we were able to have a word of prayer with them on the field, and that felt really good, man. It just felt good. The fans are great. Welcome. We had a lot of fans that visited, and they couldn't say anything but great things about how the fans welcomed them there. So hopefully we can return the favor when they come to Provo.
What are the Baylor fans who come to Provo in for who've never been to a game there?
Well, I get jealous because I hear they hand out ice cream, before the fourth quarter. So, the fans here are amazing. They'll love their experience here. You look at the mountains in the background, and it's a different part of the country. So, we're excited to have them here in the mountains and definitely in our home stadium. It's named after a man that I adore and I love. So anytime we can get people and share the story of Lavelle Edwards and then have him in a stadium that is named after him, it'd be a lot of fun.
Coach, watching that game last year, there was a lot of different players to be impressed by, but certainly your quarterback, Jaren Hall. I mean, being a QB, he's going to be a headliner, but I think a lot of people saw then that, man, he's still got a ways to go, but he's already good. He's going to be, even better as he continues to play more. What did you see just as last season progressed and then throughout this offseason to where you are now with Jaren and just kind of how he fits as a leader for your program and also a great player?
Well, I think just him being comfortable in that leadership role and him being comfortable being the quarterback of the team. And, he was going into fall camp, he was battling for a starting spot. And so now it's his spot. He's had some time to gain confidence in the boys and being able to get the connection with the receivers. And then he just has a lot more comfort being the guy, the signal caller and making checks and audibles, things like that. There's a lot more freedom that our offense coordinator A-Rod gives him. And so I really believe he feels like this is his team, his offense. And I'm really proud of the decisions that he's made. And where to put the ball, with the risks to take. It's never perfect, but I'm really happy with what I've seen from him, the composure and the poise that he has on the field.
I don't know if any college program has more lineage at quarterback than Brigham Young. There are some others as well, but including Wilson with the Jets, who hopefully is going to bounce back from the injury, when Jim McMahon and Steve Young and Gifford Nielsen and on and on and on. Ty Detmer. Have any of the former players that were stars at Brigham Young talked to you a little bit about what they see in Jaren?
Oh yeah, I mean, I talk. We keep in contact with most of those guys, and they're available for our players. I welcome our alumni, not just the quarterbacks, our alumni to be involved and to mentor our young men on the team. But yeah, I think there's a sense of tradition where there's being the quarterback at BYU is something special. And Jaron, he grew up BYU because his dad played here. His mom was a gymnast here. So it's the school and the athletics department is nothing new to him. He had an older brother that played here for us back in 2016. So he's definitely involved in the system, and we tend to have a lot of legacy players that sons and grandsons come back and play for us too. So we feel like there's just an extended part of the family, having the alumni be involved and giving their. I can trust any of our quarterbacks to talk to Steve Young and Jim McMahon, Ty Detmer. Those guys will give them great knowledge about being a quarterback at BYU on and off the field.
When this deal was signed for these two teams to play, this is going to be 2 games and over. And, maybe see you again in 30 years, kind of a thing because of the way college football scheduling works. Now, not knowing exactly when you'll see them again, but probably next year or the year after, is there kind of now this excited sense of this is now built the foundation of a conference rivalry to come?
Yeah, I'm excited about it. That we have an opportunity to play them again, and the fact that they're the returning conference champs, and then that we'll see them in the future. But I have tons of respect for Dave Aranda. I mean, that guy and his staff. There's something special there, and anytime we can be able to share the field with that type of program, we're really excited about it. I'm honored to be on this field with Baylor and that program and having their fan base interact with our fan base. Hopefully this will be a great relationship, and hopefully we can get some wins along the way too. I wouldn't mind that on our side.
Kalani, yeah, that helps. It's a friendly rivalry until you start playing for championships, and then I hope it always stays that way because both of you are ranked in the top 25. The constant change that we've seen in college football for the last really couple of years, including Brigham Young and others joining the Big 12, the USC-UCLA story, the college football expansion, has it almost just gotten to the point where it's a blur of what's going on?
Well, I mean, that's the game. That's life. We adapt to whatever is out there and what's available, and we make the most of it. And I think we're in a really good spot right now, talking about our program and with our fan base. And I know that Baylor feels the same way too. So you're looking at all the changes that have happened and the ones that are in the near future. We're always going to adapt and find a way to keep this focused on the young men, the student athletes, and then for us in the football program, the young men on the field, and make sure that they have the best experience and that we as mentors allow them the opportunity to grow and become wonderful men when they leave our universities. And that's what I look forward to doing. And I think if we keep that focus in mind, and everything else will work out just fine.
Thank you for your time, Kalani. We always appreciate it. I got to say this, is that when all the changes happened a year ago and the new teams joined the conference, or at least agreed to, having you on as many times as we have has been great for us. We appreciate it. We look forward to Brigham Young and everything that you guys bring to the table, including this weekend. Thank you very much.
Well, you guys know I appreciate you, and I love being on your show. So whenever you guys need me, I'm always here.
Block my number. Block the number. Thank you. That's a really good man, Kalani Sitake. He played fullback. So did Aranda. Of course, Aranda's career ended pretty quickly because he had that, what was it, shoulder injury?
I think the most trustworthy position is fullback.
There aren't many of them.
Yeah, that's why.
Yeah, there aren't many of them. If
you can't rely on a lot of people to do it.
Yeah, no. In fact, Baylor at times uses a fullback who's a linebacker in Dylan Doyle. They have a ton of tight ends and H-backs as well. It's a good football team Baylor's playing Saturday night. It's going to be a hell of a game.
Yeah, it's a good football team BYU's playing too. So, yeah, you're right. It's going to be a heck of a game. I haven't looked at the spread today. Last I looked, BYU was favored. I'm assuming that's probably still the case. But, yeah, I mean, Baylor's going to go in there as slight underdogs, and they're going to have to weather the storm, so to speak. They're going to have to be like Dave Aranda said, Buffalo's heading towards the storm rather than trying to avoid it and go around it and all that. And we've explained, that analogy and what that meant a couple weeks ago in particular. They're going to go head first, straight towards the fight and not try to avoid it or, delay the inevitable. They know they're about to go to war. And, BYU, I'm sure, feels the same way. You look at these two coaches, and that's all you need to know. I mean, they're not going to have pansy football teams out there that are just out there to slap fight. I mean, they're going to go, dirty, muddy, physical, and then also fast and flashy when need to be as well. I mean, I think they can both do a little bit of everything. So, yeah, I'm expecting an absolute, slugfest, but also with a little bit of that finesse as well. But it should make for a great contest, and there will be a great backdrop there with Provo and the fans that are going to turn out. So, yeah, I go Baylor in this game just because I just think, all things considered on paper, I would take them pretty much every time. But, given some of the circumstances of being in Provo and, being late at night and just some of the distractions and things that, come with come for every game every week, this will be very interesting to see how a young and yet somewhat experienced, like it's a very interesting mix of Baylor right now of like super veteran, super senior guys, and then a bunch of dudes who haven't barely played 5 snaps. So I think that veteran leadership should help, but they still are a pretty young football team. So I'm curious of, how they handle this, knowing that this is only the very first test of what is going to be trips to Norman and Austin and Morgantown and playing on different nights of the week and, playing on Black Friday against UT, like all these different things that are headed their way. This is what they prepared for, and this is the first huge step. So it will say a lot.
And Dave Arand has been discussing that they have storms ahead of them. Remember the analogy about the buffalo running into the storm, and because if you run into the storm, you're out of it quicker than if you run away from it and it catches you. And there's all sorts of different analogies he's used about having to create your own momentum. I can't wait. This is a great game. Both teams can come out of the game better. One's going to lose the game. And if you're Baylor to get a road game when you have a bunch of others under your belt with a win, that does help you, obviously. If you're Brigham Young, you have that win under your belt, and it's also one, of course, that kind of helps overshadow a little bit of what happened last year in Waco. Baylor won the game, but there were some interesting moments, and Hall is a dude. They've had a couple of bumps and bruises at wide receiver, but I get a feeling you'll see those guys come Saturday night against Baylor. Thanks for the time. Thanks to Brett Pine again, who's become a great friend of the show with BYU Media Relations. This is Sikkim 365 Radio and also 365 Sports.
What better place to talk about after previewing a game between Baptists and Mormons than Riverbend Liquor and Wine? Lakeshore Drive and North 19th Street in Waco. They are available on DoorDash. So if you're sitting at home and waiting for, the game to start and don't want to get out, or you're locked into the game, you can just order what you want on DoorDash and they'll bring it right to you. They've got a fantastic selection of craft beers, the best in Central Texas. And not only that, the best selection of locally sourced whiskeys anywhere you can find. We're talking about Texas whiskeys like TX, Balcones, Devil's River, Garrison Brothers, all great whiskeys, all there at Riverbend Liquor and Wine. Lakeshore Drive and North 19th Street behind the bank. Great drive-through window, great customer service, available on DoorDash. Check them out on Instagram for all their great deals.
At Allen Samuels, our great selection of new cars and trucks come with amazing deals and competitive financing that makes you ask, why shop anywhere else? During the Labor Day sales event at Allen Samuels, purchase a new 2022 Ram 1500 Crew Cab Lone Star and receive values up to $7,000, or choose 2.9% for 72 months and get $2,500 bonus cash and no payments for 90 days. Shop with us today. Allen Samuels in Waco.
Come by. Let's be friends.
TFNB Your Bank for Life is the official local bank of Baylor Athletics. Find out why more Central Texas are making TFNB their bank for life. Sign up for our Edge checking and savings accounts to earn interest or cash back. With 5 convenient locations and an award-winning mobile app, banking has never been easier. TFNB Your Bank for Life. Member FDIC.
You want to know why Stonewood Dental is so successful? Listen to what happy customers have to say.
It's pleasant. It's different than any other dentist office. I really feel like they care. And it's not that you're here for 2 hours waiting on someone to take care of you. It's quick and easy, and I bring my kids, and my kids love being here too. They really love the treasure box. staff is really nice and accommodating, real friendly. You feel more like home. It's not sterile looking. Everybody has their own personalized rooms with decorations and decor, and they'll even have a blanket for you when it's cold. I've recommended people to actually come here, and they are patients now. I really love it here. It feels like family.
Learn more, stonewood-dental.com.
After my first car accident, I feared the biggest damage would be to my wallet. I expected a mountain of bills and a long, drawn-out process. But my Texas Farm Bureau insurance agent was there when I needed her and helped me get back on my feet and in my car in no time. Instead of a hassle, I got reassurance and a quick recovery.
Stop by and see our agents at one of our 3 McLennan County locations.
Coverage and discounts are subject to qualifications and policy terms and may vary by situation.
It's summertime. There's picnics, reunions, cookouts, and so much to do. And Waco Custom Marketplace on Lake Air Drive in Waco is your home for the butcher shop that can help you with beef, pork, poultry, and seafood. They are spectacular at being able to deliver you whatever cut of steak you want. Bone-in ribeye, however thick you want it, that's great. They'll do it. Sirloin, T-bone, porterhouse, bacon wrap filet. And of course, as I mentioned, they have pork, poultry, and seafood. Their Norwegian salmon is spectacular. Also, all of the sauces and seasonings you'll ever need, all the ingredients you'll ever need to make sure you have that perfect, flawless taste. So it's delicious whenever you take something off the grill. And a full-fledged bakery as well, with fresh baked bread and kolaches every single day. Up and down the aisle of Waco Custom Marketplace, you also have what you need, from knickknacks to snacks to more, at 425 Lake Air Drive in Waco, Waco Custom Marketplace.
This is Sikkim 365 Radio. Text us at 254-339-1122. The Sikkim 365 Radio text line is sponsored by Riverbend Liquor and Wine, with the most extensive variety of craft beer in Waco. A hidden gem on Lakeshore Drive and 19th Street.
How about this story? Not college football related. It's football related, or it's sports related. Dan Lust, our good friend, the sports law attorney, Doug Gottlieb, who's been a part of this show, does a talk show on Fox Radio, is being sued by Casey Close for defamation. He has, in fact, retracted any claims regarding the Freddie Freeman negotiations. I prematurely reported on these events and simply got it wrong. He then had a full statement. Casey Close, by the way, responded by saying, from the onset, we were clear Mr. Gottlieb's tweet was wholly inaccurate, and that we would seek medical remedies to set the record straight. He has retracted his statement in its entirety and acknowledged that he got the story wrong. We consider this matter closed. They could have sued him for a lot of money.
He had to clear medical remedies for that hot take. Yeah. Like he burned himself, I guess, with that hot take. But hey, Twitter loved it. And I'm sure that still probably got way more responses, that initial wrong tweet, than anything that'll come out that corrects it. And that's what's kind of sad sometimes, is when you see that part of social media where, once you let the lie out there and you let the bad information out there, it's out there.
Yeah.
And there's plenty of bad characters that will take that and run with that and spread that as far and wide as they can, or it just naturally does that on its own. And so often you'll see something like what he said initially. That will be the big story, even though the real ending is, oh, no, that was total garbage and not right. I'm sure there's probably more people that still think what was said originally is still the case versus, this retraction that he just delivered.
Especially if you're a Braves fan. You're probably almost going to believe that anyway. Yeah. It's, and you can look this up. I'll just leave it at that. But it's Richard Gere in the gerbil. Because that's what people still think of, even though it's in no way true. But that's what you think of. So now
he went away because he talked bad about China.
Yeah, that's right. But there's so much stuff that happens, and I don't think Doug made this up on his own. I think he's from what his statement is, sounds like he got it from somebody and then just did no due diligence on it past that, because you hear it, and of course, if you trust that person, the person says, hey, this is absolutely true, I'm telling you, and then you think, oh man, this is a huge story, especially given...
Listen, he could have the best, and Doug's, he's good people. I know he's had some things in his life like all of us have, but you need to know Freddie Freeman, or you need to know the agent, or you need to know somebody who was a part of those negotiations.
Yeah. You gotta, again, unless it's from the source itself. I remember reporting an injury one time at Baylor, and I had the person told me, like, this is what happened. They walked out of the hospital room, and I talked to them.
The player who was injured.
Yeah, the player who was injured told me this. So I didn't need a secondary source. The guy whose hip was broken or whatever it was hurt. That's the one who told me. But if it's somebody who's somebody, then you need to get as close as you can to that source, unless you can get to that source individually before you run with it. And it's unfortunate that it happened to Doug for sure. Yeah, but he brought it on himself.
Doesn't mean that it's over, although he said it's case closed. Dan Luss saying his sense is a settlement is on the horizon. That may be the financial part of it as well.
Yeah, I don't know. I was trying to come up with some witty way to roll back around to his tweet from the other day, Doug Gottlieb, but I don't want to make it pick on him segment because we have no ill will towards him. But, I was reading a write-up on this resolution, and it mentions his employers. And if you saw the tweet the other day and you see the fact that he also has Pac-12 Network listed next to him, well, that's why you saw that tweet the other day about did y'all see that? About the fact that there was 10 people in the crowd at the Coliseum at the UCLA game, and he was basically excusing it. He's like, well, if y'all lived out here with the sunny skies and it is basically dismissing people making fun of the fact that UCLA had 10 people at their game and they were claiming like 20,000 or whatever it was. It was still nowhere close to the number. And he tried to basically, for no reason really, make an excuse for why there was no people there when everybody who's a college football fans know why there were no people there. The people that are supposed to be there do not care about the game. They do not care about the UCLA football program to the extent that most others do. And yes, they want to go to the beach rather than go to a UCLA game. But, that's not an argument that really flies in the face of fans who, don't tell us there's no fans there because it's too hot, because it's 100 in LA when, I don't know, it was 100 everywhere here in the South this past weekend, and that didn't stop hundreds of thousands of fans from flocking to various games. It was really lame, and it was unnecessary. Like, you work for the Pac-12 now. You don't have to make excuses for why UCLA has crappy attendance.
If UCLA, in my lifetime, just in my lifetime, it's probably a little bit better in your lifetime, Smokey, but even then, UCLA is a basketball school.
Are you suggesting my lifetime is that much longer than yours?
Well, I mean, it's at least 20 years longer than mine. So in the 20 years preceding my birth, then yes, I think so. But there's not any kind of real UCLA football history to brag about. How many trophies they got on the wall? But
because of my age, yes, they haven't been knocking down winning national champion, but Terry Donahue had a really good run at UCLA. Yeah, not just with Aikman. They were pretty good.
But that's been a very long time. If you start winning, even in LA and Miami and places where there's beaches and lots of other things to do, it's amazing how if you win a lot and win trophies, people show up at your stuff.
Yeah, they had a Heisman Trophy winner in Gary Beban. They had a great run with Terry Donahue, not just with Aikman. They've had some other pretty good players, but they just haven't been at an elite level in football. And there are a lot of things to do in L.A. compared to go watch a college football game.
Here is his tweet. People are making fun of UCLA's attendance versus Bowling Green. Ask yourself this question. Would you go to a UCLA versus Bowling Green in the Rose Bowl in 100-degree heat? You know what? I think everybody would agree. Probably not, right? I mean, that's not just like a combination of football teams that are really going to draw me into 100-degree heat or whatever. But if I was a UCLA fan, Doug, or as a Bowling Green fan, then the circumstances surrounding that are not really all that important. Yeah, I'm going to go to that game. If he had just left it there, that's fine. Some people like UCLA, Bowling Green. Some people just love college football. But it was when he rounded it out with saying, sorry we have beaches, lakes, pools, AC, and TVs here in the Southland. That was where you go to be in Pac-12 shill, and that's where I think that, people turn on you because that was just unnecessary. But, he's had a busy week, so I'll cut him some slack.
Dennis Dodd, CBS Sports, joins us. He's been with us about 2 or 3, 4 weeks ago with a lot of things going on, and we have him for a quick hit. Dennis, as always, thanks for your time. They're meeting tomorrow in Dallas to try to iron some things out with the college football playoff. We heard in the news Friday, and you were all over that. What do you think might be the biggest sticking point going forward?
Gosh, there's so many. Start with 24-25. but that's 2.5 years away, and the logistics are really going to be hard. Not saying it can't happen, but the most likely early start is 25. The contract expires in 26. When it will, whether or not this thing starts, whenever it starts, it'll go to market to multiple bidders. So I think that's going to be the challenge. I mean, you're talking about planning around NFL playoff dates. It now includes 17 games in the regular season. Wild card games are going to be played over 3 days in January. A key decision, I think, is, traditionally the championship game in the CFP is played on a Monday night. That's gotten kind of stale, at least to me and people I talk to. What about playing it on, the bye week before the Super Bowl, either on that Sunday at 6 p.m. Eastern or maybe that Saturday, to make it as close to the Super Bowl as possible? I think there's a lot of thinking that they really want to hype this thing and make this the second biggest sporting event in the country.
Dennis, what do you expect to be the sticking points when it comes to paying athletes for this? Because, again, it's something they now have to do, because if they don't, then they're going to get sued and lose again. So how do you think they'll work that out?
At least you mean in regards to the playoffs?
Yes.
Yeah, I think, they could get there by maybe just giving them what would amount to an appearance fee. I gamed it out, and I'm talking about all the playoff participants, and I gamed it out earlier this year. I came up with give each of them $32,000 for an appearance fee. Everybody's each. That comes to about $350 million, about 30% of the pie. That's a big piece of the pie. But that also keeps you from fighting them in court, and it divorces you from what may happen in the NCAA as far as revenue sharing, unionizing, and everything else. Is that worth the aggravation? I don't know if it'd be 30%, but I think that it would give them something. And I know what your next question is going to be. I don't know if and I think this is coming. I don't think there's a number out there that can keep a kid from skipping the playoff, a 12-team playoff, to preserve his body for the NFL. Because I think that's going to happen too. It's just going to happen with that many teams involved. Because, again, if that player is that good, he's going to sign a $60 million deal, first rounder. There's nothing you can pay him that's going to keep him in the playoffs.
Dennis, where does the Rose Bowl fit in the future?
I think they're in good shape now. I didn't before when the Big Ten signed its deal because I still don't know what's going to be left of the Pac-12.
Right.
And that question remains out there if there is a Pac-12. But I think everybody's confident, and I think they do want the Rose Bowl to be part of the playoff, even if it doesn't have an anchor, the traditional anchors that it does. The Rose Bowl just wants to have a parade on January 1st. It wants to be played at January 1st on, 5 p.m. Eastern time with the sun setting over the San Gabriels. And that's really all it wants. Does it prefer a Pac-12 Big Ten matchup? Yeah, but that's virtually impossible in a playoff because you're going to have to take what you get. Not only that, but the Rose Bowl would bow out in the quarterfinals. I think maybe the semifinals, but the best way to get them at least one Pac-12 or Big Ten team would to be slot that in the quarterfinals, because I feel confident saying this, the Rose Bowl is never going to be the site of a championship game again.
No, we brought that up earlier as one of the things that will be interesting to see. But it's beautiful, tradition, all that stuff. But it just seemed like if they're going to say this is the only time we're going to play, this is the only date we're going to play, then they're going to be left out. Now, to the money being distributed, the 80%, which is the Power 5, the 20% Group of 5, whatever the number might be, with the new additional money, will they go more with the distribution about like they do with the NCAA men's basketball tournament, and everybody gets like a marker for how many teams advance? How will they, you think, do that?
I think there'll be some of that, but it will be virtually not even a talking point. It won't even be noticeable because the Big Ten and the SEC aren't going to play for shares. You know what I mean? That's happening now in the playoffs. Every conference that has a team in the playoffs gets $6 million extra dollars. You can call that a share. But there'll be some sort of formula in a 12-team deal. But that's one of the most interesting things I want to see. When those commissioners get in that room and decide to split up that money, because there is no Power 5 anymore. The top 5 conferences aren't going to get an equal share. Why should they? The Big 12 is a glorified American. The American's a glorified Conference USA. Maybe the ACC is on a similar plane, but certainly not on the same level as the SEC and Big Ten. And I wrote that last Sunday. I just threw it out there that, let's say the SEC and Big Ten split 50%. And then you just go down the line, and the ACC, Big 12, and American split 30%. And I'm just throwing out numbers. Mm-hmm. I don't know if it'll end up that way or not, but I think it'll be something like that. There won't be equal shares for these conferences. It'll be the top 2 getting most of the money.
Dennis Dodd, CBS Sports with us, Sikkim 365 Radio, 365 Sports.
Dennis, was this a big sigh of relief to many administrators in college football that this can, at least for the time being, create a new goal in expanding the playoffs instead of the goal of expanding the conferences?
I don't know if it has any, I debate back and forth whether it's going to have any impact on conference realignment. I know that Kevin Warren from the Big Ten still wants those 4 or 2 from the Pac-12. It looks like now, publicly, Brett Yormark is saying he wants Pac-12 teams. So does any of this expansion have anything to do with that? At the end of the day, you're trying to get as many brands under your tent as possible that could play in the playoffs. There's going to be a lot of bursts there. 6 that large bursts out of 12. So, no, if I had to say it right now with a gun to my head, I think things are going to go full steam ahead with those desires. Not saying they'll happen because if Kevin Warren succeeds with his goal, is there a corresponding move to be made by the SEC? Can they just sit by and watch a 20-team Big Ten pull further and further away and ready?
What did you think of Brett Yormark's quotes from earlier? I saw Justin Williams. I'm sure there were others.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, you did that. He kind of has a way of needling it, and he's obviously incredibly positive.
Well, you're starting to see what their strategy is. He was basically talking about Arizona. I am told that the advantage that the Big 12 has over the Pac-12, and that's been a talking point since this started. Well, what do they bring to the table? What do they, Number one, I think the Big 12 has 12 teams going forward. If you ask them to sign a grant of rights today, they would. Can't say that for the Pac-12. I was told today there's more football depth in terms of what rights holders would price. Oklahoma State, Texas Tech, Baylor, what have you. There's more football depth, quote unquote, there than what's left of the Pac-12, and it's certainly deeper in basketball. That's becoming a real advantage for the Big 12. Now, only 20% of any of these media rights deals are basketball. But when you're looking to have a delineator there, that's a pretty big one. If you have Arizona, Kansas, Cincinnati, BYU with the second biggest arena in the country in college basketball, all under one roof, that's pretty special.
Dennis, thank you very much. You Craig, I know you got it.
Yeah, I know you got to go, Dennis. But
go ahead.
But why?
Go ahead.
Well,
no, go ahead.
Why now? Why? I mean, I understand the Big Ten got their TV deal done, but other than that, is there any reason why the timing is coinciding with the start of college football that is sort of overshadowing for some the games these first couple of weeks?
Expansion?
Just the playoff expansion and all that. Why now? Why was this not something that happens at another time?
That's a good question because we were told by the CFP in February it's absolutely dead till the term of the contract in 26. 12 years, nothing's going to happen. Logistically, nothing can happen. We can't possibly get hotel rooms ready in time.
Right.
Well, the commissioners fought amongst themselves over realignment. We saw that. I think there was a faction of presidents who just got tired of frustrated with what the commissioners were doing and said, you know what, we're going to pass this thing on our own. Now that it's pretty obvious because of realignment, ACC, Big Ten, and especially Pac-12 are going to vote yes, that we'll just vote yes and let them figure out everything. So that's what happened. Yes, the money is the money. They want the money. But I do believe Mark Keenum, the chair of the CFP president of Mississippi State, they were getting concerned and tired that the West Coast had been left out. Much, that was their fault. The Pac-12 was being left out. But it was really becoming regional sports in the Southeast. The Northeast was disconnected. With 12 teams, I believe Bob Bowlesby, when this was first proposed last June, I think he made a great point. On November 1st in any given year, there's going to be 30 to 35 teams in contention. That's going to hold the interest of a lot of people.
Dennis, thank you, buddy. Appreciate your time. When I know you got a lot on your plate as well. Dennis Dodd, CBS Sports with a Sikkim 365 Radio, 365 Sports. We're going to discuss kind of what he told us a little bit. And then coming up, Jeff Howe will discuss Texas and Alabama in just a moment.
Yeah, I think, it's interesting. It's interesting that the presidents did something, and we've heard that a couple of times, that the presidents did that over the commissioners.
Oh, let me tell you something. I have talked to somebody at the upper parts of administration, not tossing names out or whatever. I'm just telling you, they were not happy. The commissioners and some athletic administrators, they were scolded. This was, you guys are screwing this up. You're making a lot of people look bad, whether they're leaving people out or not. We are going to take over, grab this bull by the horns, and we're getting this done.
Well, I think all you need to do is look at the last year and the amount of talking that's gone on about just this outside world of college football and all the different changes that are coming and the way it's going to look in 5 years, of which we're still not really sure. But now we know we're heading towards an expanded playoff. So yeah, there are more opportunities, no matter how many blowouts there might be, like those couple extra blowouts you guys will have to watch. But that's coming. There's going to be more playoff games. Players are going to be getting paid somehow or another. That's coming. Like, this is changing. It's changing rapidly, but I think you look no further than the ratings these past weekends. Look no further than just the conversation on social media. The iron's hot, boys. Like, the iron for college football is super hot right now, and I think somebody needs to step in and say, like, this is the golden opportunity. Like, we're never going to be the NFL. We don't need to be the NFL. We got plenty of money flowing, clearly, but we are unique. We are special in our own right, and we are risking just blowing this all up and ruining this great thing we have in front of us that all of us benefit from by just being greedy or being dumb or, whatever the case may be. So, yeah, I think maybe some people finally woke up and saw all the self-sabotage going on that still continues in some ways. And it's like, hey, maybe we should do something about this before we just run right off the tracks. And so I think there's some of that going on. There's still plenty of things to figure out. They don't market themselves the best way. And so I think Dennis bringing up the play in the playoff, that has to happen. They have to play the playoff on a different night than Monday night, or the championship game. That championship game on Monday night, I don't know who first explained it this way, but it's like you get overshadowed by the NFL all weekend because the NFL's playing. So nobody cares. Nobody's like, going into Friday talking about the national championship game per se. They're talking about the NFL weekend and whatever else is going on. And then it's like Monday hits and you play the game and then boom, it's on to the next thing by Tuesday morning, right? I mean, and it's just, it doesn't have that Super Bowl kind of feel to it. And I think that they could really carve out a much better niche for themselves by moving those games or moving that around. So that is one part of this that he mentions that I think will be very interesting. Is good to hear him talk about the timing of it, because the timing is just frustrating. It really is. That like we could have been talking about this easily in June and July and the expanded playoff, and that would have been perfect. And to some extent, we probably did in talking about realignment, but. A lot of interesting stuff to unpack with college football right now, obviously.
Yeah, there are a lot of things in life, like in the world, it's amazing. Like I'll compare it to, forever you couldn't get breakfast after 10:30 at McDonald's. And then, like, after 50 years, they decided, hey, you know what? We'll throw an Egg McMuffin on there at 7 p.m. That's fine, so people can get it and stop complaining. Eventually, college football, the president's got the message of, these people have been asking for this forever. Why? Like, what reasons do you guys have for not doing it? And then when they come up with, but you gotta understand
be a couple blowouts, blowout games.
By the way, Whataburger served breakfast all day.
Yeah, I mean, but
waters down the regular season. No, it doesn't. Yeah. I mean, like, it might in the way that, like, perfection is not possible for every team other than one or two every year. But, like, why is that? I mean, I know that's what we grew up with, but that doesn't have to be the way we move forward. It can be fine if there's a 2-loss team that wins a national title. Like, that doesn't disgrace college football in any way, shape, or form. And you know what? If they were to do that, guys, that would be a hell of a story.
Yeah, it
would. Do you understand what a 2-loss team would have to do?
Example this weekend. If whoever loses Baylor and Brigham Young, and let's say, they're going to be in the same conference. You can lose a really high-quality non-conference game and not hear that you're done, where some schools can lose a high-quality non-conference game and they're obviously still alive. You can now lose and still have a chance to play for the ultimate prize of why you started practicing in August.
Baseball is the most stodgy, old school, traditional, we don't want to change things. And by them expanding their playoff, the only thing they've ruined is the trade deadline.
Yeah,
because
it's like it's not even there.
Because it used to be if you were in third place and you were 9 games out, then you were like, well, I might as well trade these guys. Now you might bring somebody in because you're only 3 games out of the wild card, and then you could win the World Series.
Has a wild card team ever won the Super Bowl?
Yes.
Yeah. Has a wild card team ever won the World Series?
Yes.
Has the number 5 or 6 seed ever won the NBA title?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
it happens. It's part of what makes it so interesting. It's not just 2 teams or 4 teams.
I do think that you have to be very careful of watering it down. You know, like you're already hearing, if we had Dennis a little bit longer, I did want to ask him, like, why did we just start hearing 12 2 days ago and now we're hearing 16 already? Yeah. Like, that's where I start to go, okay, wait, full stop. Like, that's going back to the greedy part of things. So
right.
I do think they have to be careful. Like, there is too much for even college football fans, the most diehards. But the 12, I like the access. I like the setup, and I like what it could mean for a lot of schools outside of Alabama, Georgia, and the usual suspects. Even if those are still the same usual suspects at the end of the year, at least a couple of weeks of that journey will be interesting for others outside of that circle.
We got to go.
Just one quick example. November 17th, you've got the number 17 team in a conference and the number 9 team ranked nationally. That number 17 team needs to beat that number 9 team to even get in the realm of being in the top 12, right, to get that at-large bid. And that number 9 team is probably already out of it, right, because they've got that loss. Well, now all of a sudden, that's a game that, as opposed to just being kind of a game everybody watches, it has massive playoff implications for 2 teams, one that's in it and could get knocked out, and one that's out and could get in.
Yeah, Marlon Shaw, by the way, super chat. We'll get to you and your point about paying athletes for state schools. We'll get to that later on. We appreciate the super chat, the $10 you sent us to Sikkim 365 Radio and 365 Sports. We're not done. We are about to go rapid fire with Texas and Alabama, Tennessee, and their game coming up with Pittsburgh and more. Sikkim 365 Radio and 365 Sports.
Richard Carr, Buick GMC Cadillac, got a lot of great deals over there. With the people that you can count on, Donnie and company over at Richard Carr. They have excellent customer service. That's one thing I can tell you straight away. I did not originally buy my car from Richard Carr, but that's where I made my way once I had a couple of fender benders, a couple of dings and dents and things to take care of. I went and saw Donnie and the good folks over there, and they have taken care of me every step of the way over my couple of visits the last few months. So I vouch for them personally as far as the customer service side of things, but they are also a dealership that is wanting to get you into a brand new vehicle or a used vehicle as well. They've got a lot of offers on the lot right now. So if you are in the market for a new or pre-owned vehicle, well, first things first, if you're in the market for new, get your name on their inbound vehicle list. You can do that by stopping by the dealership and signing up, or you can contact them via phone, via email, and sign up that way as well. Basically a placeholder, your spot in line. You want this version of this SUV or this truck or this car that they're offering. It's not available right away on the lot. To get your name on the inbound vehicle list, and as soon as it arrives, they will get you first come, first serve to get into that vehicle and drive off happy today. But if you can't wait, you want to get into something today, they got a ton of pre-owned vehicles available that have all gone through a 172-point inspection before ever hitting the lot, and you'll get top dollar on your trade with dozens of lending options. Richard Carr loves to say yes when others say no. In business, 23 years in Central Texas, Richard Carr has built a reputation not only as the people that you can count on, but a place for great deals and a place to take care of all your automotive needs. Run by proud Wakelands, again, proud Baylor Bears. Log on to richardcarr.com today. Call now or go see them now off Highway 6 at the Imperial exit.
1, 2.
I'm in love with a man named Rudy. I'm okay with that. He knows exactly what I want. He keeps me coming back. Cooks breakfast, lunch, and dinner for me. Does the dishes too. I'm in love with a man named Rudy. Last name Barbecue. It sure is easy to fall in love with Rudy's tasty oak smoked barbecue.
Next in line.
Boots add protection. Good boots help you climb better and move forward faster. And when your son or daughter steps into the boots of a U.S. Army officer, they also learn how to lead. In these boots, they'll gain more confidence with expert training in one of more than 150 occupational specialties. In these boots, they'll stand a little taller and lead a team with diverse backgrounds and areas of expertise to successfully accomplish whatever challenge comes next. In these boots, they'll earn respect with valuable experience from day one that will give them solid footing for success into the future. Highly qualified candidates who earn a spot on our team can receive comprehensive health care coverage, college tuition assistance, and a bonus of up to $40,000. See all the things your son or daughter can achieve in our boots at GoArmy.com. U.S. Army Waco Recruiting Company, 254-598-8131 or 254-776-1543.
One size fits all. That may be all right for an adjustable belt or cheap sunglasses, but when it comes to your financial needs, no one wants a one-size-fits-all strategy. Cam Heathcott, your Edward Jones financial advisor, knows that his most important goals are yours. That's why he takes the time to understand your needs, knowing you. That's how Edward Jones makes sense of investing. Cam Heathcott, covering Conroe and Houston, 936-756-7717 or cam.heathcott@edwardjones.com. Edward Jones, member SIPC.
Automatic Chef Canteen is a full-service micro-market vending and office coffee provider with state-of-the-art vending equipment, a wide variety of products, and offering custom-fitted micro-market vending office coffee solutions for your employee break room. You want a full break room solution and a workplace oasis? Well, Automatic Chef Canteen, locally owned and operated for over 50 years in Central Texas, also includes in-house mechanics on call 24/7 for fast, reliable service and maintenance. Automatic Chef Canteen, 6900 Imperial Drive in Waco, or online at automaticchefcanteen.com.
Riverbend Liquor and Wine, Lakeshore Drive and North 19th Street, right behind the bank, is a hidden gem in Waco. If you're a fan of bourbon, especially local Texas bourbons, that's where you gotta go. Balcones, TX, Devil's River, whatever it is, they've got it. Riverbend Liquor and Wine, plus the best selection of craft beers in Waco, seasonally churned out throughout the year. Whether it's spring, summer, fall, or winter, Riverbend Liquor and Wine, best selection of craft beers, a speedy drive-through window, and excellent customer service. Find out more on Instagram or just go by and see them. Lakeshore Drive at North 19th Street behind the bank.
From the first workout to the last practice, sports is an incredible and rewarding challenge. Hi, this is Dan Ingham with the First National Bank of Central Texas, and we're proud to support each athlete, every parent, and our educators. From families, small businesses, to the biggest industry, we're here to help. With remarkable products like our free First mobile app, we've got banking ideas that fuel big dreams. That's the First National Bank of Central Texas. Familiar faces making local decisions.
Member FDIC, Equal Housing Lender.
Welcome back to Sikkim 365 Radio.
Squirrel Williams takes the toss over the left side. Squirrel into the end zone. Touchdown, Baylor.
The 4 o'clock hour is sponsored by Boozer's Jewelers, the wedding ring store, specializing in custom jewelry and repair, all in-house.
Now, here's David Smoak, Paul Catalina, and Craig Smoak.
Over the next hour, we're going to focus in on Texas, Alabama, Houston and Texas Tech, and also the Tennessee and Pittsburgh game. Thank you for being with us. 365 Sports on YouTube and Sikkim 365 Radio. Good friend of ours, Jeff Howe, at Jeff Howe, HOWE 247, covers Texas for 247, also Longhorn_Blitz. Jeff, thanks for your time. There was an incredible build-up for that game with LSU the year that Burrow and LSU ran the table and had that record-breaking offense. Is this similar?
The only difference with Smokey, that game was a primetime game. Heck of a party in Austin all weekend. And, my prevailing thought from that game is, the Tom Herman era at Texas kind of peaked right in that minute before that 3rd and 17 where Justin Jefferson burned off on the Texas defense. But that's the only difference. Everybody, I don't know that either fan base or college football fans at large will ever be okay with this game being an 11 a.m. kick. It probably deserves better. But no, the buzz, the atmosphere. Game days in town. Fox's big new kickoff is coming to town. You can kind of feel. I mean, it's a Wednesday, and you can already feel it. I mean, the only other game on the schedule where you get this in Austin is the week of the Oklahoma game, and then this feels much bigger. So yeah, it's pretty thick already.
Jeff, the obvious difference between these two teams will be along the fronts, and that Alabama has a lot more experience and a lot more skill up there. What do you think Texas will do on either side of the ball to try and stem that tide?
I think offensively, Paul, when you look at the Texas offense against the Bama defense, two things. One, Steve Sarkisian, he loves pre-snap motions and shifts. He loves moving guys around. He loves manipulating things at the mesh point with the RPO game. That stuff has to matter. Like, it can't be window dressing. The intent has to be there with that stuff from the jump. Because if you can do one thing with this Alabama defense, Will Anderson, Dallas Turner, Chris Braswell, those guys on the edge, you can kind of use their aggressiveness and their speed against them, get their eyes in the wrong place. If you give them different stuff to look at, and again, do some stuff and kind of manipulate things at the mesh point. So that stuff has to matter. There was also a really interesting tweet that Sark made in the UL Monroe game. Jaleel Billingsley, the Alabama transfer tight end, sitting out with serving a 6-game NCAA suspension. So it kind of made Jatavian Sanders, moved him from a guy that they were going to use more as an inline guy. Now that he's the guy that they're moving around a little bit. So they moved Andre Carrick in and used him. He lost the left tackle job to Kelvin Banks, the talented true freshman at camp. They're taking Carrick, and there were 5-6 snaps the night where they played him as a tight end. Now, I'm sure that package, if it's going to be a part of the offense, will be more expansive this week. And then my thing, Paul, if you're going to bring extra guys in to help block, these edge guys from Alabama, it feels like, well, chip them with the tight end or chip them with the back. Well, number one, don't waste valuable passing game assets as blockers, and two, just throw an extra offensive lineman in there. So that's some of the kind of stuff Sark's going to do with the Texas defense. I think it's much simpler than that, Paul. I think they've just got to take chances. The game that I think about last year with them was the Arkansas game, where they just try to play Arkansas straight up. They stay in the too high shell look and were pretty vanilla up front. And I think once Arkansas figured out that's all Texas was going to do, that's when Arkansas started gashing them in the run game. Pete Kwiatkowski's a guy that doesn't take a ton of chances, but I think this is where you'll kind of see some of that Gary Patterson influence. I think the Gary Patterson impact in this game and all season really for Texas is going to be if the front and the coverage is on the Texas defense, if they mesh. Last season, you could look at what Texas was doing up front, look at what they were trying to do on the back end, and a lot of times nothing seemed to make sense. I think Gary Patterson's going to help Pete Kwiatkowski out there, but they've got to take some chances up front, kind of get out of their element a little bit. Again, it's a defensive front that doesn't do a ton of two-man games or a ton of twists, a ton of shooting gaps, but you're going to have to do something out of your comfort zone to try to create some negative plays to get that Alabama offense behind the chains and give yourself a chance.
Jeff, I don't know about you, but it was just so nice to actually see Quinn Ewers play as opposed to talking about what he may or may not do. Like, we finally got to just see him play a game. What were your thoughts on the debut of Ewers?
Well, then after the game, we were all talking about his car getting towed.
Yeah, exactly.
So it's just kind of par for the course for Quinn. No, I think what really stood out to me was how calm he was. You could even see sideline, you can see from the press box. After he threw that interception, there wasn't a ton of panic in him. And he stayed the course, and that's the kind of stuff that's going to help him in this game. And personality relates to his play. You kind of see it like, I've said this already this week, it's tough to remain as calm as he is, have the kind of pocket awareness he showed in that game on Saturday, and make some of those off-platform throws and throws where they really move you off the spot and get your feet moving. It's hard to make some of those throws and be poised if you're just constantly up and down all the time. So I think that demeanor he's got, that even-keeled demeanor, that's going to help him tenfold in this game because Alabama game, they were very vanilla in that game. They didn't show anything. So Quinn Ewers is going to see stuff from this particular group, this particular Alabama defense. He's the stuff from Nick Saban and Pete Golding that he didn't come close to seeing from them on tape, and that he didn't come close to seeing last week because it's a totally different piece. We're talking about UL. There were some throws where I thought he just maybe muscled it up a little bit on some of the deep balls. But overall, and that pocket awareness and the ability to make kind of those off-schedule, off-platform throws, that's the kind of stuff we saw from him in high school that we heard he was doing behind the scenes. Opponent, the caliber of ULM, which, as we know, it's not a high-caliber opponent. It was just good to see him go out there, bounce back from the interception, and go play good football.
It's ironic that they're playing Alabama. Of course, they'll be a part of the SEC. That was the series, or these games were scheduled before any of that happened. Like Brigham Young and Baylor played last year. They're playing this year before any of Brigham Young being a part of the Big 12 happened. How much of this do you think will be the storyline of eventually they're going to be a part of the same conference? Will too much be made of that no matter what happens in this game?
Maybe, Smoak. Yeah, the only SEC tie-in for me kind of goes back to that Arkansas game last year, right? And we can look at Texas under Tom Herman. They beat Georgia in the Sugar Bowl, but we can all debate how much Georgia wanted to be there, whether they cared or not. And, the LSU game, that was a game that went down to the last couple possessions. But again, that was, I think, before LSU really became that juggernaut that we saw them be in 19. And I think when you have a coaching change, you have a culture change, you have roster turnover. Texas went to Fayetteville last year, and Sark even said it this week. Look, they weren't physically ready to match up with Arkansas, and they weren't mentally ready to go into Fayetteville and understand what it took to play in that league. So I think that's the thing, Smokey, that they can take from that game last year and take from that game this year. Maybe there are games in the Big 12 where you can get away with not playing a completely physical game, playing at your best when it comes to physicality aspect. Man, in that league, you don't get a Saturday off. I know it's become more space and pace, but it is college football ultimate line of scrimmage league. So if there's anything from an SEC slant that I'm looking for on Saturday, not even for Texas to win the vast majority of their one-on-one battles in the trenches with Alabama, but can they just for maybe sustain some stretches where it looks like, okay, they're trending in the right direction in that area, and at least they look better to handle that on a week-to-week basis than they did in the Arkansas game last year.
Jeff, if this game does get out of hand, which with that, like great teams against Alabama, things get out of hand. It's usually not so much an indictment on your team as it is, what Nick Saban has built there. But has Steve Sarkisian been able to do enough inside that locker room where they can clear this one and not let Alabama beat them twice?
You hope so, because you look at the schedule, they've got a good UTSA team coming into Austin next week. So I think that fall is going to be the biggest challenge for the team. No matter the result, whether you look, we've seen crazier things happen, right? If Texas were to win this game, if it's a game in the fourth quarter that comes down to the last possession, or it's a game that everybody's kind of checked out by the middle of the third quarter, whatever the result is, can you flush it on Sunday internally? Because outside, we're going to talk about that game going into next week, and probably around this time next week, we'll start looking at UTSA. I mean, that's just kind of the pulse of the fan base. I think that's to be expected. But, internally, can you flush that result and move on? Because that's one thing, all that they didn't do last year. Last year, they let it snowball. They let the Oklahoma game affect them going into the Oklahoma State game. And then that's just kind of but to where by the time, the Baylor game is a perfect example. Like when things started to go downhill towards the end of the first half, like you could feel it. Like there was no question of, is Texas going to unravel? It's okay. When are they going to fully unravel? So that to me, he's worked all off season on fixing that. That to me is going to be the big test, though, if that works or not, is what product do they put on the field next week against UTSA, regardless of what the result this weekend looks like.
Jeff, from just, we spend months and months talking about every facet of these teams that we cover, and then we get to the season and we have some things confirmed, but there's also some surprises. Was there anything, in finally seeing them in action, that suddenly has popped up as kind of a new thing that you're monitoring, or maybe perhaps some confirmation on something you've been thinking along the way?
I think two things, Craig, and it kind of rolls into one. I think just how good and how ready some of these true freshmen are. I mean, that's one thing, like you can hear about it in camp and hear about it from sources, but to actually see it, to actually see Kelvin Banks go out there and play. We played 37, 38 snaps the other night and look really good doing it, not allow a single pressure and really hold his own at left tackle. That sudden violence Jalen Gilbo played with in the secondary. A young guy like Barron Sorrell, who flashed in the limited amount of snaps he got last year, come out and have, a sack and a half and 2 TFLs and really lead them up front. A game where, again, Texas was really vanilla on defense. They just counted on their guys to win one-on-one battles, and Barron Sorrell won his. So I think just that, Craig. I think some of the young guys that you kind of heard, but he's coming along. He's really good. He can make an immediate impact. Some of those immediate impact guys making a difference. I think, and I'll throw Jatavian Sanders in there as well. Again, kind of a more expanded role than maybe I think anybody, myself included, thought he was going to have, especially in the wake of the Jaleel Billingsley suspension. Stuff that I think bothers you. There was a 3rd and long that they allowed a 20-something yard completion that got ULM into the red zone. I think situationally, some clock management at the end of the first half, some of the stuff that popped up last year. It's one of those deals. Is that just clunky because it's the opener? Is that just a continuation of some of the bad stuff? So that would be kind of the give and take thing for me.
How much fun is just having this game so early and no matter the result? And this is kind of a game that sometimes UT has been somebody that ends streaks. I know they're a heavy underdog, but this is kind of interesting to me. I just love the fact they're playing.
Boy, Smokey, that's spoken like a true lover of Nebraska football right there. We talk about ending streaks. Texas has had a habit of that. No, I think regardless of, whether you love Texas, you hate Texas, you love Alabama, you hate Alabama. I think if you love college football, you see those two brands, those two helmets, those colors flash on the field. Man, it's just awesome. And I like the fact that, Alabama hasn't played a true non-conference road game in 11 years. So it's not like Nick Saban takes his team on the road in a non-conference game every year. So for them to do this, it is a really big deal. And you start thinking about the history between these two programs, not just talking about, the game in Pasadena in January of 2010, but you think about, the 65 Orange Bowl, Joe Namath and Tommy Nobis, and the moving the Orange Bowl into prime time for the first time, and Bear Bryant against Darryl Rowe. You think about just all the history with these two programs. Like I said, I don't care if you love Texas, hate Texas, love Bama, hate Bama. Man, if you love college football, you should be really excited to watch this game on Saturday.
2011, wasn't it, when they played at Penn State? Was that the last time they had a true road game?
That's it, Smokey. That was the last true road non-conference game in Alabama.
They've played a bunch of good non-conference games, like at least one a year, but it's been in Arlington, Orlando, Atlanta, and then that game I mentioned against Penn State after they had played Penn State in Tuscaloosa as well. Jeff, thank you. Enjoy it. This is fun. There's a lot of good ones this week. I call them bangers, and this is one of them, just to kind of just see what happens. We'll have evidence, and appreciate your time.
Yeah, the only reason I'm happy this is an 11 a.m. game is I will be home in plenty of time to watch Baylor BYU. Yeah. It's a hellaciously intriguing game Saturday night.
You got a lot of intrigue with that one as well. Thank you so much, Jeff Howe. Again, 247 Sports covers UT, and they host Alabama bright and early. I'm trying to decide whether or not I'm going to play golf on Saturday morning, and I probably won't because I just want to be able to watch that thing, and I wouldn't get to the house early enough if, in fact, I try to tee off at 7 o'clock or so. Just a little bit too much of a fine line there.
Yeah, I'm not doing anything Saturday than watching that game and whatever else is on and entertaining at that time. But that is definitely my focus starting off Saturday. So yeah, I'm fired up to see it. I definitely am heavily in favor of Alabama winning this football game. It's just a matter of how they do it, I think is what everyone's question is. And yes, I am allowing the opportunity that there could be one of those just wonky types of days where, it is Bama's first time on the road in a non-con game in a really long time. And Texas is better, and maybe not back, but better. And, just viewers that's why we love the game, right? Is you actually have to go out there and do it. And sometimes it's exactly how you thought it would be. It's 62-0, and it's just a blowout. And then sometimes there's just games you're just pulling your hair out because it's so insane. And we saw a lot of those last weekend. It's going to be hard to match week one, but that's a heck of a way to not kickstart week two, but to get excited about week two.
Yeah, I part of me wishes it wasn't that game wasn't at 11 o'clock, because if it was what everybody envisioned when they signed the contract, it wouldn't have been at 11 o'clock, but
at the same time, though, like at the same time, though, like I just don't think that every big game has to be prime time in a dome stadium with So I like that. Yeah, it's an early kickoff. It's in Austin. It's not at AT&T Stadium, and that's college football. It's not 7 p.m. at Mercedes-Benz every single time. So if you want a game like that. Well, you can go make the playoff and, or go make a great bowl game and you can get a game like that. But I think for just a regular season college football game, of course, we'd all love it to be just prime time. But I do like that throw that bad boy on at 11 a.m. and see what happens. So I'm excited about that.
Well, that's the argument that OU brought up.
Oh, yeah.
That we heard about. They were all angry because of the 11 o'clock kicks.
And they had Nebraska,
a lot. But
they had a lot.
And they did. But that's Fox's best time period. That's their game. That's when they... I'm not saying it's CBS 230 with the SEC and eventually the Big Ten, but that's who they want. That's when they want their best game. Not all the time, but it will be 11 o'clock. It'll be great because then we'll know a little bit more about a lot more about Texas and maybe in surprisingly good ways. And then of course Alabama just steamrolled who they should. Utah State in their opening game this past weekend. All right, when we come back, Houston and Texas Tech. We've heard from Joey McGuire last week. Texas Tech rolled to their first win against Murray State despite a quarterback injury, and they're fine in that position with Donovan Smith. And then, of course, Houston with the dramatic win against UTSA. We'll hear from Rob Sellers on Houston, the Cougars, in Lubbock this Saturday, and Sikkim, 365 Radio, 365 Sports. Petty Clinic, lowt.com. If you are, as you get older, maybe in your 30s, 35, 40, and even into the 45, 50, it's not like age discriminatory. Low testosterone can happen to even those in their 20s. Usually that's not the case, but there's enough to where 1 out of every 3 men have symptomatic issues of low testosterone. Dr. Kent Petty can help you get through that. Dr. Kent Petty, pettyclinic.lowt.com, top left-hand corner, email and phone number. You can contact him if you think that might be an issue. What are the symptoms? ED. Sex drive's not the same. You're not sleeping well. You've got body fat despite the fact you're pretty active and your diet's okay. And then, of course, focus and attention and energy. You're just blah. And then a lot of that just contributes to all the above. So pettycliniclot.com can get you set up and take care of the blood work appointment, get the results, and if your testosterone levels are too low, they can put you in a program to increase it so you can become the high-performance man you want to be. pettycliniclot.com.
Baylor University is where lights shine bright. So, let there be light. Let there be roommates and teammates, scholarship and championships. Let there be fresh starts and new traditions, fast friendships and lasting impacts. Let there be laughter. Let there be joy. Let there be light. Baylor University, where lights shine bright.
Don Humidor, your home with a 48-foot walk-in humidor with the elite cigar brands from around the world, including the #1 cigar of the year, Aging Room Cuatro Nicaragua. Plus, they have the great brands like Macanudo and Artur Fuente, Rocky Patel, Aston, and so much more. CBD, great for sore muscles, aches and pains, sleep, Vita Dreams, and anxiety, mild depression, general health and wellness. Their staff very knowledgeable on the subject. If anyone is curious about CBD, ask Carol and Ashley. Don Humidor in the Townwood Shopping Center off Valley Mills in Waco.
There are 26 letters in the alphabet, over 600,000 words in the dictionary, and just 3 of them said together can change everything. Let's order pizza. Those 3 words lead to dough made from scratch and 3 fresh signature cheeses that blanket golden crust in a heavenly melt on Marco's Pizza that'll blow your mind. So visit Marcos.com to order and stop by Marco's Pizza in Belmead, China Spring, Woodway, and in Robinson. Marco's. Pizza lovers get it.
Cars priced right both day and night. Average your car in Texas. Trucks built for you, red, white, and blue. Average your car in Texas. Cars that zoom with lots of room. Average your car in Texas. count on us, a dealer to trust. Have Richard Carr in Waco, Texas.
Pizza, burgers, and Bears football. There's no place around Waco that serves them all other than Bubba's 33. Come show your green and gold and enjoy some of Waco's best food and beverages while watching your favorite team, the Bears. When real Bears fans get hungry, Bubba's 33 is the #1 spot for ice-cold drinks, hand-stretched, stone-baked pizzas, and bacon-infused burgers. Join us for indoor or patio dining. Bubba's 33, Waco's restaurant and proud supporter of Baylor Bears football. Sick 'em, Bears.
Hi, this is Paul Catalina. I recently got engaged to the love of my life, but the most important thing that I had to do before I popped the question was get that perfect ring. And I know nothing about rings. So I went to the wedding ring store, Boozer's Jewelers on Valley Mills Drive. I knew I needed a custom design, and that's exactly what they do. 9 out of 10 of their engagement rings are designed in-house. The entire process took less than a month, and they were great every step of the way. Great options on financing, excellent selection, and talented designers. My fiance and I get nonstop compliments on the ring. I only deserve credit for doing the smartest thing I could, walking into Boozer's and letting them work their magic. Your one-of-a-kind fiance deserves a one-of-a-kind ring, and that's what you get at Boozer's. Boozer's Jewelers, the wedding ring store on Valley Mills Drive.
Welcome back to Sikkim 365 Radio. Want more updates during the day? Follow 365 Sports YT on Twitter.
Some of the better games this weekend, one of them in Lubbock, Houston, after their dramatic win against UTSA. And Texas Tech first-year head coach Joey McGuire, they routed Murray State as expected. They have played before, and they're going to start playing more often because of the Big 12, of course, increasing starting next year. We're joined by Rob Sellers. He covers Houston, 247 Sports. Rob, thank you very much. Heard a lot of great things about your coverage of the Cougars. Have you gotten over, not so much you were emotionally involved, but have that game with UTSA, if that's going to get blood flowing, that would be the game to do it?
You're not lying right there, and I appreciate you guys having me. It was a heck of a game. I think, obviously, Houston expected the most from UTSA, and it was kind of their Super Bowl. They've got a quality team, obviously, coming back. They bring a lot of people back from last year. But it'll be interesting to see how UTSA does the rest of the way. I think they got a pretty good team over there, and they definitely came to protect their home turf. A huge crowd, great ambiance, as you saw probably on the TV. And then they gave Houston everything they could handle, of course, up until the very end there.
So these teams saw each other a year ago, but obviously Tech has the new coach in Joey McGuire. Houston they were good last year. They look like they might even be better this year. Clayton Tune looks fantastic. What do you expect to be different between last year's game to this year's?
Probably it'll be a little bit better game for Clayton Tune. He really grew a lot after the Texas Tech game last year, and a lot of the team matured after that game. It's a shame kind of that game was early in the year like it was. It probably would have been a little bit more competitive had it been a few games in. But I think Clayton Tune will be a little cleaner this time. Obviously, he had the 4 picks last year and then 4 sacks as well. I think he'll have a cleaner game. I think the passing game will be there a little bit more this year. They've added a lot of receivers in the offseason via a 4-star freshman they landed out of the Houston area here, and then some guys they landed out of the transfer portal as well. So much better receiving core this year. I think that'll show up in this game better than it did last year. And then defense, it's going to have to see. They lost, they got 4 guys off last year's team in NFL teams this year, so that obviously makes a difference on the talent level. But they've had some guys they've been able to work in behind them some last year and get some experience. So it just how far along has this team gelled in just the second week of the season?
Rob, what's it been like to see Dana Holgorsen just, build this thing up to his liking, put his fingerprints all over it? I know it hasn't always been, the best of times, but right now seems like a pretty good time for the program. What have you kind of seen in this journey of his?
He's done a really good job. They came in with a real good plan. They were obviously in touch with the leadership who was okay with them kind of doing some things the first couple of years in order to get things in order and start building the roster up more like they would like to have it and more like it's getting to now. But it's been impressive to see just that, like I said, they came in with a plan. They stuck with it. They've done a good job not really reaching too much. It's really tough for them to get offensive linemen, specifically tackles. They've not really reached on anyone. There's been opportunities for them maybe, okay, well, we need a tackle in this class. We didn't get what we want. They've done a real good job of not reaching anywhere. I don't think they've really brought in anybody that hasn't gone on to make an impact. So they've just been patient, really. That's probably the best term you've used. They've been patient and stuck to their guns with what they're going to do. And in a way, after the fact, that it's going to work out better for Houston in terms of moving to the Big 12 because they kind of got a couple-year head start on rebuilding that roster the way Dana wanted to build it, like a Big 12 program should be. So, of course, they didn't know at the time, but in hindsight, they're going to get a little bit of a head start on trying to get the roster up to shape for the Big 12 next year.
I brought this up. We just had Jeff Howe, who covers Texas. Texas is playing Alabama. They're about to be in the same conference. Baylor and Brigham Young started last year. They're about to be in the same conference. And then this one as well with Texas Tech and Houston.
It is interesting. And the players talked about it this week a little bit about the preview because also in a couple weeks, Houston hosts Kansas as well. So that's another future opponent. So that's one of those deals that I think the players are excited to go ahead and dip their feet a bit in there a little bit more this year, get a little bit more as a gradual acceleration into what's going to be next year. So hopefully it pays off a little bit for them and we're getting them ready for what they're going to face next year.
How critical has been the president at Houston and what she's been able to do to guide them to where they're going?
Absolute. Hands down, she deserves she's at the top of the list, 100%. I have the fortunate experience that I came in within a year or two after she got here, and I've covered the Cougars since then. So I've kind of seen their efforts along the way to try to improve facilities, to improve what they're doing in terms of not being just a commuter school anymore. They've added a ton of on-campus beds, housing and stuff. And she's just really done a good job of not only pushing the athletic side, but they're also pushing real hard to get to certain tiers of research universities and stuff like that. She's done a good job. They've opened up a medical school now this year. She's done a real good job, but specifically with athletics, she's done a great job of letting them kind of do what they needed to do. And even though at times they probably didn't have the money to stick that neck out there and go ahead and put forth the effort, and in the end, it's going to be judged by the fact that she was able to get them back into a Power 5 conference again.
Rob, they're playing Tech, and they have had that series before, as you mentioned, even currently. Which of the schools who are a part of the Big 12 now, which of those 8 teams that are going to remain do you think will be the best rival for Houston?
I think there's a chance it is going to be Tech because they've been one of the schools that's played Houston, even though they weren't in the Big 12. They've been consistently going back as far as, there was a big game with Case Keenum, obviously with a quarterback sneak at the end of the game to beat Texas Tech in 2009, I believe. So Texas Tech has been consistently that team that's played them. Oklahoma State a little bit also has played them. They had the one game with Oklahoma, and they returned it up there, but obviously they're going on to the SEC. So I would bet Tech and maybe Baylor. Baylor's, for some reason, is just one of those schools, Houston and Baylor. You know, if you remember your history, of course, I'm sure you do. It was kind of Houston and Baylor that came down in the whole Big 12 thing, and Baylor got in, Houston didn't. So there's a little bit of I'm sure there's a little bit of a urge to get get even in a way with Baylor as well.
Well, there's also the comment you're going to bring that
truck gate.
It's equipment truck gate when Houston
there you go.
Came barreling in, and they kind of had a frustrating moment right there. There's no question. That'll always be interesting as a backstory as well.
Definitely. I know Coach and everybody, that was a frustrating season for everybody in terms of scheduling, but that was an odd one that it popped up so quickly and just as quickly almost as soon as it was gone again, even though, like you mentioned, the equipment truck was already sitting there. So that whole year, I'm sure everyone's glad it's behind it because it was definitely tough to live through.
Little did we know at the time how everything would turn out in the end, right? Like, hey, this is just a future conference game. We're just pushing it down the line a little bit. It's all going to be good in the end. But, Rob, Texas Tech with Zach Kittley, I know they've got the quarterback injury to Tyler Shuck, so, you got Donovan Smith and the young guy and Baron Mortons, but they're going to throw it around, and yet at the same time, they're not like just they have to throw it to be successful. I know he said in the past, both Kittley and Joey McGuire, that they're going to run the offense that, the defense gives them basically. How do you see this Houston defense in terms of stacking up personnel-wise, but also what the challenge is facing this Red Raider squad that we've only seen this one game from so far from Zach Kittley?
Yeah, it's kind of guys to defend on Houston's their pass rush. I thought they had a good pass rush against UTSA. They got close a whole lot, but couldn't quite get home enough. I think they only ended up with like 3 sacks, which is a decent number. But for them they're really priding themselves on the up front. The front seven should be a fairly close matchup with Texas Tech. My first concerns will be on the edges with the cornerbacks. I think the safeties are good. They've got some depth back there and some experience. The edges, the corners are experienced, but not as deep as they were last year. So, to be honest with you, it's tough for me to pick Houston against Texas Tech in Lubbock. I know the spread's kind of close, but it would be tough for me to pick Houston to go in there and win. I think they've got the possibility to do that, but it's tough for me. If it were my money, I would not put it that way.
Right on.
Thank you, Rob. Appreciate your time. Great to have you as a part of the show. Rob Sellers, 247 Sports covers Houston, the Cougars.
Well, I
on the game in Lubbock.
I picked them on the big one too. So
who?
Houston.
Houston.
So thanks, Rob. Really.
I mean, do you go based off spreads or you just go head up?
No, we went off the spread.
Okay, I was gonna say if you picked them head up, then yeah, I would definitely not have picked them head up.
Yeah.
Why? Because they're not good enough that I think they'll just go march into Lubbock and win.
No, I don't know. I like Clayton Tune. I like and last week probably should have dissuaded me from this is a team that's probably I don't know how good UTSA really is either. So those teams, UTSA and Houston, might be exactly the same come the end of the year. I don't know. I just had a feeling that marching to Lubbock's gonna be tough, but I don't know. I just liked them to win the game. So.
I mean, fair enough. Yeah, give me Lubbock and give me the home team all day. I think that they've been kind of downplaying. I think kind of how good Texas Tech can be. Not they as in like I think the coaches have done that somewhat, but I think that the media has been kind of very quick to just let them kind of just play this season out. You know what I'm saying? Rather than like there's no expectations really.
Well, yeah, we've discussed this. Yeah, it's like this is a weekend they should win this game, and it will prove you right.
Yeah, I think that they're gonna go in there with a really good team. They're at home, and I think this whole we're just in our first year, that's not going to be a part of the equation at all. I think that they're a team that still has a very long way to go under McGuire, but they're not starting from square one. So they have a nice solid base already. They've got confidence after last week and playing the brand of football that they did. They've got some, dirt on their hands now. And Lubbock gets up for big games. There's no doubt about it. So I think that, Houston's going to walk into hostile territory and face a team that's just as energetic and roared up and ready to go. And, ultimately, I do think that you'd probably, at worst, split the talent level between the team. But if anything, probably give maybe a slight edge to Texas Tech. Regardless, I think it's close. And, that fact that it's in Lubbock does tip it in the Red Raiders' favor for me.
All right, the 4 o'clock hour winding down. Jack McKenzie, Levi Caraway, Jacob Wilson, Garrett Ross, and Emery Winter all of them are in the studio today. Thanks to one of our great sponsors, Bubba's 33, for lunch today for everyone. And their Cajun chicken and shrimp. It's pasta. It's very good. And so thank you again to Philip Dunn and Nathan Watkins of the local store on I-35. This is Sikkim 365 Radio and 365 Sports. I'm on the website, Alan Samuels, Dodge Chrysler Jeep Ram.com, Alan Samuels DCJ.com. And my goodness, there are so many vehicles. You can find the new vehicles, shop and buy if you want online as well. And we know what they do when it comes to pickup trucks. They are loaded with Ram trucks. Loaded. The Ram 1500, 2500, 3500. And again, it's durable, but pickup trucks now are almost as nice and luxurious. In fact, they are as some of the nicest of SUVs, and they are available on the lot at Alan Samuels, Dodge Chrysler, Jeep, Ram, Fiat. There's work trucks. There are just trucks that you want to drive home from, and maybe heavy duty if you have a lot of stuff that you haul. And then also, of course, the new trucks, including the 300 from Chrysler, the Pacifica Hybrid, the Challenger, Charger, and Durango from Dodge, the Wagoneer, Series 2 and 3, and the Grand Wagoneer. And, of course, Jeep with the Grand Cherokee, the new Grand Cherokee, the Wrangler, and the Renegade. And Ram trucks, as I mentioned, so many different type of models that will all do what you need it to do. Ted Teague, the general manager, and also AJ, one of the best sales reps you'll ever know. He's available there along with others who are fantastic client managers. It's Alan Samuels, Dodge Chrysler, Jeep, Ram, Fiat, Loop 340 east of 84 in Waco.
Holy cow, has it been a hot summer. You could fry an egg in the bed of a pickup truck. Jay here from Pickup Outfitters here to give you a little heat relief and some protection for your poor truck bed. August is bed cover month at Pickup Outfitters, and we're making it easy for you to cover up that hot bed on your truck with discounts of up to $200 plus matching rebates of up to $200 and double your warranty on many of those covers. That's up to $400 in discounts and rebates plus double your warranty on bed covers at Pickup Outfitters. And you get our famous lifetime installation guarantee and free warranty assistance, which makes for a worry-free purchase. When's the last time you could say that about your bed, a truck bed? Get your poor bed some heat relief with a brand new bed cover, including name brands like Backflip, Undercover, X-Tang, Retrax, Roll-N' Lock, and Truxedo. Up to $400 in discounts and rebates with double your warranty. It's only at Pickup Outfitters, 220 Lake Air Drive in Waco.
How did Edward Jones become one of the biggest financial service companies in the world? By not acting that way. Financial strategies, one-on-one advice, it's a big difference. And that's why Brad Wilson, your Edward Jones financial advisor, makes sense of investing. Experience the difference for yourself. Brad Wilson, 250 Sharon Drive in Woodway, 254-776-4337. Edward Jones, member SIPC.
At Ideal MRI, we feel blessed to be a part of the Waco community. We're a small family business right here in Central Texas, and our goal is to bring down the cost of healthcare while maintaining high quality. At times like this, the cost of healthcare has never been more important, and unfortunately, significant illnesses and injuries still occur. That's why Ideal MRI is open and here to serve you through the difficult time. We offer premium MRIs just like a hospital with state-of-the-art technology and specialists, but you'll pay less. Sometimes thousands of dollars less, whether you're using insurance or not. At Ideal MRI, we accept most insurance and there are no hidden costs. Even offering financing if that's needed, everything included in the price, and you'll not get something as a surprise in the mail later on. If you need an MRI, ask your doctor about Ideal MRI. They'll know. You can schedule an appointment safely from home online in minutes at idealmri.com or give us a call, 833-IDEAL-MRI, idealmri.com.
Baylor Scott and White Southwest Sports Medicine and Orthopedics, the team physicians for Baylor Athletics, diagnosing and treating all sports-related injuries, including concussions. These specialists also provide orthopedic services for athletes and non-athletes alike, whether it's knee or shoulder pain, hand or wrist injury, orthopedic spine care, and even an arthritis and total joint clinic. Trust the doctors Baylor Athletics trusts. Baylor Scott and White Southwest Sports Medicine and Orthopedics wants to get you back in the game.
Did you know that Waco Regional Tennis and Fitness is a partner of the City of Waco? Did you know that we are open to the public? Waco Regional Tennis and Fitness offers day passes to the public for only $10 a day, and we offer money-saving memberships. Waco Regional Tennis and Fitness offers over 40 group exercise classes each week, including bar, yoga, boot camp, indoor cycling, and more. There are free weights, weight machines, TRX, rowing machines, stationary bikes, new treadmills, elliptical machines, and much more on the spacious weight room floor. Personal training available where you can be encouraged to grow. Sauna, whirlpool, tanning bed and kids club, 17 tennis courts, 8 pickleball courts, youth and adult tennis and pickleball lessons. Waco's premier experience where you can help your mind, body, and soul. Visit our website at wacotennis.com. Call us at 254-753-7675 or visit us next to Hawaiian Falls on Lakeshore Drive in Waco.
Welcome back to Sikkim 365 Radio. Are you a Sikkim 365 super fan? Then try out our premium subscriptions at Sikkim365.com.
We start this 5 o'clock hour, and there's a pretty good game with Pittsburgh and Tennessee, of course, just around the corner. Brent Hubbs, he covers Tennessee for VolQuest.com. Brent, thank you for your time. We appreciate it. What is the hope meter on Tennessee sliding back into relevancy and being a team that is not just, are they back, but pretty good?
Oh, I think the hope meter's high with the Tennessee fan base right now. I think anytime across the landscape of football, whether you're high school, college, or the NFL, if you return a quarterback that everybody in the program believes in, who's been successful, it changes the hope factor for the fan base. And that's where Tennessee's at right now. They have been through the wilderness as a program for a lot of reasons. One of those reasons in most recent years has been inconsistent quarterback play, struggles at the quarterback position. Hendon Hooker breathed life into that position a year ago and got Tennessee to a bowl game. He's back with a handful of weapons. And I think the result of that is
a lot of Tennessee fans hopeful and optimistic that they can make a statement on Saturday.
Outside of Hendon Hooker, obviously the big change is Josh Heupel in year 2. What is different about Josh Heupel than the cavalcade of people that came between Philip Fulmer and him?
Identity, a plan, confidence in who they are. Jeremy Pruitt is a really smart football coach. I know people think it's crazy to say that. From an X's and O's standpoint, Jeremy Pruitt is really, really good defensively. He was ill-prepared to be a head coach. He wasn't ready for the job. He didn't understand the things you had to do as a manager of a program. All he knew was the back room breaking down film, because that's what he had done at Alabama his entire career, basically. Josh Heupel has got a bigger picture view. He can see it from among the trees, I think, is the biggest difference. And I think Josh Heupel carries a great deal of confidence with him, more confidence than Butch Jones had when he was here. And Derek Dooley, when he took the job here, he took it in the middle of the night because Tennessee was in a situation where they didn't have anybody to lead the program because Lane Kiffin left in the middle of the night.
Last week, Brent, Ball State provided a nice little tune-up to get the season underway. Tennessee handled their business in that one. But what did you leave the game with going, I still wonder about this. I'm curious about this, especially in relation to what Pittsburgh does and what they're facing in week 2?
Yeah, good question. 2 key points for me, one on each side of the ball. Defensively, Tennessee did not have a sack in the game. Part of that's because Ball State got it out of their hands quickly for the most part. But even when opportunity was there on 3rd and long, Tennessee did not get home the way that I thought they would. Not enough quarterback hurries. That's got to improve this week. I mean, Tennessee has got to get after Slovis. Slovis was sacked 5 times in the game by West Virginia. Tennessee's got to make some hay in their front 4 and not have to blitz linebackers all the time to move Slovis, get him off the spot, make him uncomfortable. And then on the offensive side of the ball, Ball State simply said, we're not going to let you throw it over our head. So they did more drop 8 into coverage, drop 7 into coverage than they did bring any kind of pressure or try to come from any kind of unique situation. Tennessee's breaking in a new left tackle for this year. Gerald Mincey's the starter there. He split time with J.J. Crawford. Neither one of those guys got tested from a pass rush standpoint. If you follow Pitt at all, Pat Narduzzi likes to get exotic on 3rd down. He'll stem, he'll twist, he'll stunt. They'll blitz from different directions. They'll do some unorthodox things. How does Tennessee's left tackle handle those situations on 3rd long when Narduzzi likes to get really aggressive with his defensive front? Those are the 2 big questions for me, one on each side of the ball, that you just don't know the answer to heading into this week.
Brad, I mentioned VolQuest was 247, but you're on on3.com now, right?
Yes, sir. That's correct. We're there last week.
Yeah, I it's constantly a change, and so I wanted to make sure I gave you the right place where you are. Again, it's on3.com. It's VolQuest.com. The recruiting seems to be going pretty well. I know they're like just outside the top 10. They have 21 commits. It's early for Wall. Your thoughts? I know they got the star quarterback they think coming in, but overall, how do things look with that?
Well, again, I think there's a direction in what's going on with the program. They have an identity on offense. You know how they want to play offensive football. You look at this past season, they lost one coach. Cody Burns left for the NFL. They promoted from within at the wide receiver position with Kelsey Pope, who already had some relationships with some receivers out there Tennessee was recruiting. Continuity counts, okay? Now, you don't keep people just to keep people. If you do that, you're going to get yourself in trouble because not everybody's the right fit. Sometimes you have to make changes. Sometimes changes happen. But for a program that spent the last 10-plus years in a state of constant change, having some continuity from year 1 to year 2 has helped them within the program get ready for this year 2, but it's also helped them on the recruiting landscape front as well.
Brent Hubbs, VolQuest.com, Tennessee, Pittsburgh coming up this weekend. Paul?
How much do you think they've closed the gap on Georgia, which is the team that everybody in the SEC East has to try and close the gap on?
They're still looking at them. They're still pretty far off in the forefront. I mean, Georgia's really good. Okay, for everybody who thought Georgia was going to take some back seat because it was their own personal draft party on draft night with all the national coverage and everybody getting drafted in the first round. Kirby Smart's done a great job recruiting there. You talk to enough people around the SEC through the years, and I've had the good fortune of covering Tennessee football in the SEC since 1994. Everybody will tell you that Georgia is a great job, maybe the best job in the SEC. And some people kind of laugh at that idea because there's Florida, there's LSU, obviously Alabama, their history. But when you look at what Georgia has to compete against in state, no offense to Georgia Tech, but those kids grow up loving the G. Georgia can come in recruiting in the midnight hour and take a kid from somebody. They've got the facilities. They're building more facilities. They've got a coach who has a plan to win. Their administration decided we're all in to win. And Georgia's aligned in a way right now we've not seen them align in a long, long time. So I think Georgia's going to be hard to catch. I really do. I'm not saying you can't catch them, but they're going to be a challenge to catch because I think Kirby Smart's got enough of Nick Saban in him that he's not going to get complacent on anything, which will make it difficult to catch Georgia.
You know, when I think about Georgia as well, and obviously there's a great history there, but I always think about how elite the running backs were. Jabari Small's a pretty good player. Last year was last year. He had nearly 800 yards and 9 touchdowns. Where are they when it comes to hitting big again at the running back position?
Well, you're right. Jabari Small's a nice player. He's not an all-conference player, in my opinion. Jalen Wright's back up, same thing. I think those are both solid SEC backs in a system that wants to run the football and has success running the football differently than some other programs because of what they do in the passing game. But they don't have that big timer like you used to see Tennessee have. They don't have one of those right now. We'll see if they can land one in recruiting in the next couple of years. But they don't have an all-conference type player right now at the running back position. Now, this is a program that had Jalen Hurd and Alvin Kamara both in the backfield at the same time and could find a way to win with them on a regular basis. So, just having them there doesn't mean you had success, but they're going to be able to run the football effectively. I think Tennessee is because of the style of the run game. But right now, I would not say they've got a, quote, elite back. And I'm not picking on Jabari Small. I love that kid, and I love his mentality. He's a take-on-all-comers guy who's put on 15 pounds. He's a different back than he was a year ago from a physicality standpoint. But he's not Jamal Lewis, Travis Henry, Travis Stevens, Chuck Webb. We can go through the whole list of guys that Tennessee has had through the years. He's not at that caliber of back right now.
What is the discussion when it comes to, obviously, whatever the time will be with Oklahoma and Texas in the SEC, which was a big story a year ago, Alabama, Texas playing this week. Is that really on the radar right now, or is everybody now just focused on the season now, thank goodness, because there's games?
Well, I think the first thing that's on the radar, there's two things. One, is the Big 12 going to let them out? Could that happen sooner rather than later in terms of those two teams joining the SEC? Maybe. Could it happen in 24? Perhaps. Instead of 25. I don't know that it gets done for next year. I would be surprised if that were the case. The big question in the SEC right now is how many conference games are they going to play moving forward? Right now they're at 8. Are they going to go to 9? 9 makes the most sense. 9 makes even more sense if the college football playoff's going to expand, because then it's okay if you beat each other up. You can still get teams in. When the SEC spring meetings happened in Destin back in May, there was a lot of thought that maybe they would come to a resolution on a future conference schedule then. They did not. They kind of tabled it. There's some schools who are still advocating for 8. Nick Saban's advocating for 10. I think most people are comfortable at 9. I think they'll land at 9. I know a lot of schools in the league, including Tennessee, have come to agreements with some non-conference games, some of these bye games, where you bring in smaller schools to your home stadium to fill out your schedule. And there's some out clauses in those contracts that say if the league goes to 9 games, we can get out of this game. And so I think there's some preparation being made by schools around the conference to prep for 9 games. Will that happen in 23 or 24? Probably 24. And maybe it happens in conjunction with Oklahoma and Texas arriving then. That's certainly a possibility.
Brent, the Johnny Majors Classic, is that correct? They've only played 3 times. This will only be the fourth meeting between these two teams?
Yep, that's exactly right. Last year was the first Johnny Majors Classic, and they're doing a Johnny Majors Classic this go around to finish out the home and home. They're not slated to play each other again anytime soon, but these two teams have only played 3 times previously. Pitt has won all 3 matchups, so Tennessee trying to get one win out of that. Pitt's going to unveil a Johnny Majors statue. I've done some stuff this week on Coach Majors because he's such a Tennessee legend. But I tell you what, he's revered in Pittsburgh. I mean, he is absolutely revered in Pittsburgh. Tony Dorsett had a big part of that, obviously, with a national championship. But they are certainly doing all they can to honor Coach Majors this weekend. And he means a lot to their program, just as he means a lot to the state of Tennessee and the University of Tennessee.
Hey, good stuff, Brent. Appreciate it. Brent Hubbs, VolQuest.com, a part of On3. We appreciate the time on Tennessee, Pittsburgh, but mainly a lot about the Tennessee football program.
Yeah, and it is kind of hard to track down where sites are going to. But you say the name VolQuest, and that's one that like that takes me back like 20 years to like the sites when I knew them, like growing up and first following recruiting and what the big sites were. That was definitely I feel like one of them that I heard a lot. And that was interesting. I just stumbled upon that fact that this is only the 4th meeting ever, and Pitt's won all 3 of them. So that's kind of like that's just something I just random as heck that I never would have thought about really, but cool that there is that flair, that crossover with Johnny Majors, and they're making that a part of the equation. But yeah, that's a big game this weekend. I do like Tennessee. You know, Pitt. There are definitely some things to like, but I wasn't just over the moon with Keaton Slovis last week or Pitt in general. You know, I think West Virginia had that game for the taking, and to Pitt's credit, you know, they took it from them, but there's definitely some vulnerability there, and I'm sure there is with Tennessee as well. I think it comes down to me. I just don't see Tennessee not scoring a bunch of points, ultimately, or enough points. Like, I just don't think you're going to limit them to the point where you're able to match them. Does that make sense? Mm-hmm. Like, I just think Tennessee by default is going to score a lot, and I don't know that by default Pitt and Keaton Slovis are going to be able to match that. So that's kind of where I am simplistically on why I'm favoring Tennessee. I just think they're a bit more explosive. Should be great. And if they get their first win in that series, as short of a series as it has been, that's going to be big time. You're going to hear a lot of the drums beating louder for Tennessee football and Josh Heupel, and rightfully so.
Tennessee Vols in Pittsburgh, Panthers after their win against West Virginia. Hey, every night, weeknight, for 10:30 on the CW channel, Sikkim 365 Radio and 365 Sports. Sports Tonight, we'll have that every single weeknight. Emery Winter heavily involved in that. Paul does a lot as well, along with Jack and Levi and Jacob and Garrett, and we appreciate all the behind the scenes. It's fantastic stuff. Now, when we come back, we're not done. Marlon Shaw, earlier today on the Super Chat, gave us a Super Chat. Again, we said thank you. We're going to come back with this. Here's what he put up. Very complicated to pay athletes, especially for state schools. They become employees of the state and eligible for state pensions and other benefits. It's very complicated for non-football reasons. We'll come back and discuss that. Marlon, thanks for the chat. Chat room is rolling along. Text messages 254-339-1122, Sikkim 365 Radio and 365 Sports. IdealMRI.com in the Central Texas Marketplace in Waco with a state-of-the-art technology MRI machine. I've been in it 3 or 4 different times. My shoulder on the right side, my shoulder on the left side, my abdomen, and even my lower back, because I was kind of having something where I thought it was my hip, but actually it was an impingement, a narrow area in my L3. Rob Maxey, Dr. Rob Maxey, the partner, the guy that runs it and understands what you need, which is 2 things. Why does something hurt? And your doctor wants to know even more about it because for some reason he hasn't been able to find it out, because that happens. And an x-ray won't give you the information. That's why there's MRI. And they will find out. The MRI machine and the cost, $497 or less. When I remember a few years back when they started promoting that, I was like, that's impossible. It is very possible. And it's not just $497, but $497 or less. And they will help you filing your insurance papers as well. I've been in it. It has cost me $497. It's cost me below that before. And the information you get from the MRI is sent to you very quickly. And also your doctor can get in the portal and look at whatever is on the MRI at IdealMRI.com.
If you're out looking for a great selection of new cars and trucks, then shop Allen Samuels in Waco, because we have some of the best deals in Central Texas that will put you in a new vehicle and driving away with confidence. During the Labor Day sales event, you can take your pick, a new 2022 Dodge Charger or Dodge Challenger, and receive 0% for 72 months and no payments for 90 days. If you're a first responder, you get an extra $500 off your purchase. High-quality vehicles from a dealership with a hometown feel. Allen Samuels in Waco.
Hey, this is Bryce Petty, former starting quarterback and two-time Big 12 champion, and I know firsthand the importance of being in top shape both on and off the field. So listen up, men. If you're feeling beat down day in and day out and looking for that high-performance edge that separates the men from the boys, then look no further than the Petty Clinic Low T in Waco. Petty Clinic is a comprehensive men's healthcare clinic with an atmosphere catering to men. Board-certified Dr. Kent Petty has a special interest in offering the highest quality medical care to men of all ages. Some of the services offered include screening and treatment for low testosterone or thyroid, infertility, high blood pressure, diabetes, high cholesterol, sleep apnea, while offering comprehensive wellness exams and complete men's health lab panels. High performance men, remember, it's not just a Petty thing. This is Bryce Petty, encouraging you to reach out and Google search Petty Clinic Low T or go to pettycliniclowt.com and get your complimentary lab screening today.
Do you or your kids get nervous about going to the dentist? Stonewood Dental, Dr. Steve Childress, he can help.
I've spent a career taking care of patients who as children had bad experiences, and now they're adults that hate going to the dentist. If I get a kid at 3 years old and they come every 6 months and it's a happy experience, it's normal for them. Now they have an accident at 6 or 7 or 8 at school. Now they have a broken tooth or a trauma, and they have to come here. They're used to lights, they're used to water in their mouth, they're used to experience, they already trust us. It's amazing what we can do with that kid without it being a negative thing. But if I see a 6 or 7 or 8 year old that's never been to the dentist, and now they have a trauma or an unfortunate unexpected toothache, it's harder to do that for that kid and it not be somewhat of a negative experience. So bottom line is I try to teach kids and adults and teenagers and everybody the way I'd want my family treated, which is where it's a necessary part of life. You just take care of it. It doesn't have to be that big a deal.
Learn more, stonewood-dental.com.
Parenting is full of surprises.
You never know what to expect.
So after our son was born, I called my Texas Farm Bureau insurance agent to set up a life insurance policy in case something happened to me.
Sawyer is now 2.
And we'll soon have a sister. There's no one else I would trust with protecting my family.
Stop by and see our agents at one of our 3 McLennan County locations.
Coverage and discounts are subject to qualifications and policy terms and may vary by situation.
Let Camille Johnson Realtors guide you seamlessly through the process of buying your dream home or selling your current one. Commercial, farm and ranch, or residential, Camille Johnson Realtors can smoothly and successfully lead you through any transaction. With a team of 28 experienced agents who are excited about serving you, Camille Johnson Realtors services the entire greater Waco area. If you're in the market to buy or sell, contact Camille Johnson Realtors, 104 Midway Center in Woodway, or find them online at www.camillejohnson.com. Camille Johnson Realtors, elegant, charming, warm. Welcome home.
Stepping into a new pair of boots is great, but stepping into the boots of a U.S. Army officer can also add confidence and leadership skills to your son or daughter's career path. There are more than 150 occupational specialties to help them find the best fit for their future. See all the things your son or daughter can achieve in our boots at GoArmy.com. U.S. Army Waco Recruiting Company, 254-598-8131 or 254-776-1543.
Welcome back to Sikkim 365 Radio.
Golish on the left side of that shot. Here's Hooker, got a blocker, and he's got 6. Touchdown, Tennessee and Hendon Hooker.
The 5 o'clock hour is sponsored by Edward Jones Investments with financial advisor Brad Wilson. Investing is time and experience back to you and your money during today's changing times. Edward Jones, making sense of investing.
Now here's David Smoak, Paul Catalina, and Craig Smoak.
Earlier today in the chat, Marlon Shaw with a super chat. Marlon, we do appreciate you. On the college football playoff, the expansion, we were discussing how some of the money might be distributed, including paying players. Marlon, very complicated to pay athletes, especially for state schools. They become employees of the state and eligible for state pensions and other benefits, It's very complicated for non-football reasons. Now, I know how, I have no idea who is a state employee or whatever and all of that, but Paul, could this become a problem? Were you paying attention?
A problem. I mean, it's going to be difficult, but just because it's difficult doesn't mean you shouldn't do it. They'll figure out a way. And eventually they're going to become employees anyway, and things will unionize. It's always going to be a problem. But, I mean, I hope he's not saying, like, oh, it's going to be a problem, so they just shouldn't do it. No, that we have that attitude too much in this country anyway. It's going to be hard. Everything worth doing is hard.
Let's not expand the playoff. It's going to be hard.
It's going to be hard. If it was easy, it would just be called the way. I mean, but it's not. It's not easy. So, yeah, I'm sure there'll be some sticky wickets, but they'll get through it.
From Sir blah, blah, blah. Where there's a will, there's a way. If they become state employees, I don't believe they can unionize.
I don't know how any of this works.
Yeah.
I don't want to even pretend like I'm not even going to contribute as far as like unionization and state employees and all that. I have zero clue how any of that works.
And neither do I. That's why I brought it up, because when he mentioned that, I was like, okay, that's above my brainwave.
I mean, the term union, the label union has been thrown around really since the beginning of all this NIL stuff started. I know there's positives to that, or advantages to that. There's also disadvantages to that as well. And where, potentially college athletes would fall in line with that, I have no idea. But I also wonder, it's very easy to kind of paint with a broad brush and be like, well, what happens with athletes in this? But, are we talking all athletes or are we talking football athletes? Because there's a difference, and there's a difference in where the money's coming from, and there's a difference in why the money's there to begin with. And it's not because of volleyball, with all due respect. It's not because of golf, with all due respect. It's football. So, can you make the case? Like, how does that work with, does football have the leverage to just make that the case for everybody, that they're getting paid like employees would and getting the benefits that employees would and getting all of those things? Is football able to change course for everybody involved in college athletics as a whole? Or is it just something that specifically we're going to be talking about with college football players because they're the ones that are playing the sport that's bringing in all this money? That's the part that I'm curious about, and I'm unsure of. But as far as the logistics of how any of that works to begin with, I have no clue.
Before you respond, Paul, Garrett, I just sent you an email. I'm not sure if you can get that up on the screen. Let me know when it's ready. It's one of the chats that I just saw.
Well, one of the ways they can do it without making it state employees is they can funnel the money from the sponsor, not from the university. So basically, or from the network. So the players will get paid from ESPN, not from...
What did Dennis Dodd say, $32,000?
Yeah. So if they're going to get
kind of like the players don't get paid by the school, they get paid by the entity or whatever.
So instead of Alabama paying that $32,000, ESPN will. It's just money that's just going to go into they'll say, all right, if you're in this game and you show up and play in it, and we're in these playoffs, here's your $32,000.
All right, here's a part of the chat from Scott of Casterly Rock. Just got off work. Did Brett Yormark really just say he was going after Arizona without saying Arizona? What he said was that they were preferring to look out west. And Jason Shear from Wildcat Authority, who's been a part of our show a lot the last couple of months, said, why don't you just go ahead and say Arizona? And Dennis Dodd even said that as well in his segment with us at the top of the 4 o'clock hour.
So to answer your question, no, he didn't say Arizona, but that's what was inferred, yes, was Arizona. When he mentioned out west, I mean, there's not really any other logical candidates unless they somehow were able to finagle an Oregon, Washington, or an Oregon or something like that. But Dennis Dodd also said, and I mean, take it from, for what it's worth, all these realignment things that are said out there, because there's sometimes major reporters are right and sometimes they're wrong, and sometimes they're being used for a certain reason or a certain angle. So, I mean, again, take it for what it's worth. But he was talking about how the whole Pac move to the Big Ten, as far as those schools, is still in play. So that would obviously be Oregon and Washington for starters. And then, Stanford, you think would be the safest bet after that, and then after that, I don't know. There's a lot of, is Cal really, are they in the mix or are they not? I don't know, but if that's still in the cards, well, then eliminate them. Then Yeah, who else would it be? Utah maybe, but I don't think BYU's bring them on.
Well, he never said Arizona. He said the fourth time zone, which would not include Arizona.
No, that could be San Diego State.
They're Pacific time sometimes.
Well, I mean, sometimes. I mean, they're on their own time zone because they don't do.
Yeah,
because one of the few smart things that the state does is
Pacific time.
They can be, but he was saying the fourth time zone. I don't think he was specifically talking about Arizona. I think he was talking about the actual Pacific time zone.
So San Diego State.
Yeah, or potentially one of those other ones. But I mean, let's be real here.
It, Paul.
Oregon or Washington or whatever. So.
Yeah. All right, from Polo Bear, back to what we were discussing about paying players.
Man, wouldn't that be something like poor Jason if San Diego State got the call from the Big 12 and it wasn't Arizona? But, yeah, I don't know. You can kind of read that however you want to read that, but it's definitely open to interpretation.
In fact, John Wilner, who's with the San Jose Mercury Press, he had a tweet today that if they let anybody near some of those elite schools, like, for example, if the Big 12 plants a flag – in anywhere near San Diego State, near those schools that are pretty good, modern day and others, you might as well just shut down the doors. That's what he said on a Twitter feed. Also,
I mean, I don't know, though. I've also seen, and I don't know if it was him or some other Pac-12 guy talking about how all this news lately is great news because now the Pac would have a bid, but, then you turn right around and it's like, okay, but the whole expansion thing's still in play. So how good of the news is it really? They're still negotiating their TV deal. So, there's still a ton of questions for that conference. And the expanded playoff, you would think, is a life raft, but I don't know. It might still be kind of deflated, that life raft. We don't know yet.
Also, one of the other, things on chat, I was getting ready to go back to it. From Polo Bear, in Texas, collective bargaining by a public employee is prohibited. Somebody needs to get some napkins and some. We got allergies in
Bless
here,
you.
Paul? Yes, you too. And their salaries and benefits can be dictated by the taxpayer legislature. Baylor would thrive. That's from Polo Bear. Thank you, Polo Bear, for being a part of the chat earlier today. So they got a couple of the questions we answered. From Stephen Snook at Ohio, teachers are considered state employees regarding their pension. They are allowed to join a union.
Yeah, but we're not a very pro-union state here in Texas. Why do you think Amazon is building multiple facilities here? Because it doesn't happen. I mean, they're like, I can't think of
one here in Waco that's impressive as hell.
I can't think of
all the
one.
car dealerships, man, all the car plants. I mean, Toyota and all them coming to Texas.
I can't think of one really powerful union in Texas.
Yeah, I don't know. This is not my wheelhouse. I have no idea on any of this stuff.
I mean, because it's just not that
the teachers.
They're powerful.
No, I'm asking.
So they might have.
I'm asking you, would they be, even though they, right now they're losing battles left and right? It seems like, but the teachers union pretty big.
I would think it's probably big, but again, what has gone their way?
Clout,
what has gone their way? At all? Have they gotten significant raises? Did they get to not pay for their own school supplies? Does the rug not keep getting pulled out from under them? Do they have to keep teaching to a test that doesn't help anything? So no, I would say that they might have one, but what's it doing for them?
A couple of people, you're right,
in
Craig.
Seattle today, it's stopping classes the moment they're supposed to be starting, apparently.
Yeah,
walk out the first day of school. So, I mean, our future generations are just going to be set up so well from the last couple of years. They are really going to thrive.
From a couple of others, Craig, you're right, nothing is settled, sir, blah, blah, blah. And then Donnell Johnson, of course, nothing is settled. College football is always changing. We have to break, come back with John Machota. He covers the Cowboys. They play Sunday night against Tampa Bay. Tomorrow night, the NFL season begins. Sikkim 365 Radio, 365 Sports.
Policies out there. It gets so confusing shopping for insurance, and I never know if I'm getting the policy that's right for me. Luckily, I met the team at the Nitchie Group Insurance Agency. With the Nitchie Group, you can go to one company and get access to coverage options from many insurance carriers, and you get to speak to a real person about your specific coverage needs. With the Nitchie Group, I know I'm getting the right coverage at the right price. If you need insurance, talk to the experts at the Nitchie Group at 1-800-258-8302.
TFNB Your Bank for Life is the official local bank of Baylor Athletics. Find out why more Central Texas are making TFNB their bank for life. Sign up for our Edge checking and savings accounts to earn interest or cash back. With 5 convenient locations and an award-winning mobile app, banking has never been easier. TFNB Your Bank for Life. Member FDIC.
Mark Stewart with Bird Colgan Ford. It's that time of year. It's football season, and BK Ford is a proud supporter of the best high school football teams in Texas, right here in Central Texas. BK Ford is proud to sell the #1 truck in Texas, the F-Series truck, led by our leading rusher, the F-150, 45 years in a row. Lock in your best price and rate today by custom ordering your new F-150 at BK Ford. Simple, easy, trusted. Experience better at Bird Colgan Ford.
One size fits all. That may be all right for an adjustable belt or cheap sunglasses, but when it comes to your financial needs, no one wants a one-size-fits-all strategy. Ben Erlinson, your Edward Jones financial advisor, knows that his most important goals are yours. That's why he takes the time to understand your needs, knowing you. That's how Edward Jones makes sense of investing. Ben Erlinson, 100 North 6th Street in Waco, 254-759-8533. Edward Jones, member SIPC.
Baylor University is where lights shine bright. So, let there be light. Let there be roommates and teammates, scholarship and championships. Let there be fresh starts and new traditions, fast friendships and lasting impacts. Let there be laughter. Let there be joy. Let there be light. Baylor University, where lights shine bright.
Three Nations Brewing Company has 16 different beers on draft with a new beer every Friday. It also offers 2 air-conditioned tap rooms, a large indoor beer hall, a second-floor mezzanine offering a great overview of the brewing company and equipment and patio where you can relax under the shade. Plus, you can now experience the new Three Nations Beer Garden Grill on our shaded patio. Grab a cold beer and enjoy a bite from our freshly prepared and delicious menu. Street tacos, quesadillas, freshly cooked burgers and dogs, and veggie burgers too. Nachos and so much more, all prepared and cooked on site. So come visit the award-winning Three Nations Brewing Company on East Vandergrift off I-35 in Carrollton.
Pizza, burgers, and Bears football. There's no place around Waco that serves them all other than Bubba's 33. Come show your green and gold and enjoy some of Waco's best food and beverages while watching your favorite team, the Bears. When real Bears fans get hungry, Bubba's 33 is the #1 spot for ice-cold drinks, hand-stretched, stone-baked pizzas, and bacon-infused burgers. Join us for indoor or patio dining. Bubba's 33, Waco's restaurant and proud supporter of Baylor Bears football. Sick 'em, Bears.
Welcome back to Sikkim 365 Radio. It's time for our weekly segment with John Machota of The Athletic. Brought to you by Pioneer Steel and Pipe, where customer service is their main focus, and best in metal, steel, and pipe for large or small projects, with 2 locations in Waco and Bryan. Family owned and operated since 1943.
John Machota, theathletic.com. Cowboys Sunday night against Tampa Bay in what will be a monstrous ratings game, and it may be and probably should be a pretty good football game as well. John, thanks for your time. I was listening to the flagship up in Dallas, and I heard Jerry on. It might have been Monday morning. I can't remember when. And I'm sure you have to be there to listen to that as well, wherever he's talking when you can, and sometimes in person. Did you get the impression he was talking about so much about how he wants everyone to know the Cowboys are this and that? Did he ever talk about whether he wanted to win?
I don't know. I didn't hear those words. So it's one of those where, yes, I do listen to every single one of those Jerry interviews, even if I'm on vacation. That's how sick and messed up my life is. I mean, there's no other team that really makes their owner that available that often. So there's certain times where I'll listen to him, and if there's a quick hitter or something he says that it's like some quick information, I'll tweet it out right away. But it's interesting you bring that up, because on that, when he talked about that, I was like, you know what? I'm not going to tweet about this right now. I usually have something behind me, a piece of paper, or maybe I'll write on my phone. I'll be like, I'll mark off the time on when he said it. I'm gonna go back and tweet out the full quote to make sure that I got all this in here. And no, when he talked about that, about how he likes to, hey, if they're talking about us, then we're doing our job. And I'm just like, no, I would think if you're winning games, you're doing your job. But no, that wasn't mentioned. And that's one of those things where if Jerry Jones is just Jerry Jones, the owner of the Dallas Cowboys, I don't know how much it maybe bothers fans as much. But the fact that he's also your general manager, like what other general manager in sports is going to talk about how they care more about people talking about their product than they do about winning actual games and championships?
Well, I mean, that would be like Trump admitting that, yeah, I took the papers for a reason. Like everybody is said for years that Jerry doesn't care about winning and he only cares about marketability, and he just admitted it. And it's kind of weird that he would just finally come out and be like, yeah, I'm happy as long as everybody's saying our name.
And I'll be honest with you, this is the way that, because I've had a hard time grasping that as well, because to me, I'm just thinking if I own the team, I feel like obviously the Cowboys have a lot of visibility. The Cowboys had a lot of visibility before Jerry Jones bought the Dallas Cowboys. It's not like they were an expansion team before that. But I would think that if you get back to winning big, then that will take care of everything else, and everybody will keep talking about you because of that. So let me just say this. This is the one area where I think that there's no question that you can criticize the Cowboys on in terms of the way they build their team. Because I don't want to sit here and say he doesn't care about winning, because obviously he does. He might not care about it as much as some other people, but the one part that I will say that I've noticed is that the way they've built this team, especially over the last 5, 6, 7 years, is that it's built so that there's no real horrible year. And they're built that, like, hey, we want to stay at least in the middle of the pack. And if we can get hot at the right time and we can add the right piece at the right time, maybe we make a run. But we don't want to do anything to mortgage anything that all of a sudden we're going to just have this awful year. We want to stay at least in the middle, because that keeps us in the conversation. The way the NFL is with the parity, that'll keep us in the playoff talk all the way to. And instead, you're sitting here like going into this season where you're just like, you're built like you're loaded on defense. Why not take some chances on some players on offense? Well, if those players don't hit, then we could be looking at, like you would probably see with the Rams in about 4 or 5 years, where, man, there's going to be some ugly years. I feel like Jerry Jones just wants to avoid the ugly years. And if some great ones come along with it, great. But if not, let's just not be so awful that people don't care and aren't listening and aren't talking about the Cowboys.
John, Jason Peters, newest Dallas Cowboy. Obviously, they had a need there on the offensive line, but what are your thoughts on his addition, and what are the plans for getting him to work and getting him acclimated to Dallas?
Yeah, man, today was the first day I got to see him. He's a big dude for sure. They're working him in to get in his conditioning where it needs to be game shape wise. And so he was doing individual drills today, moving pretty well. I mean, certainly not going to be a week 1 guy. Week 2, maybe. But I think a lot of that process is going to have to do with how does Tyler Smith look? If Tyler Smith just looks completely overmatched, I think that in the opener, I think you got to speed up the Jason Peters timeline, where all of a sudden you might be like, we understand that you're not all the way ready for football game, but we're going to need you next week against the Bengals. And so, but if Tyler Smith can hold his own, I think that buys Jason Peters maybe another week. I think in the perfect world, they would love to, not have to put Jason Peters out there for a few weeks so he can kind of get his feet up under him. I guess I should say in a perfect world, they would love Tyler Smith to be amazing, and they got their left tackle of the future, and basically he has an outstanding rookie season. But if that doesn't happen, I think they'd like to have a couple of weeks of Peters kind of getting his feet under him, and as Mike McCarthy said today, ramp it up and be smart about how they utilize him. But if Tyler Smith plays well, then maybe they won't need Jason Peters that much, and maybe he's like more of their swing tackle. But this was all talked about when they sat down with him. I mean, there was no sitting down and saying, "Hey, get ready, you're going to be our starting left tackle as soon as you're ready to go." It was, "Hey, we're going to go with Tyler Smith. If it doesn't work out and he has some growing pains, we're going to have. That's where we want you to come in, and then maybe we'll move him into guard." But as of right now, I don't expect anything week 1, but you might see Jason Peters out there week 2.
Was Jason Peters on the Eagles Super Bowl team?
Yeah.
All right. He's been Pro Bowl 9 or 10 times. Mm-hmm. So you have Tyron Smith, who most likely will be in the conversation to be a part of the Hall of Fame. Peters will probably at least have his name brought up. What a great thing for Tyler Smith and anyone else as an offensive lineman to have those guys around him. And then Zach Martin, with how good he is.
And what's interesting about that, too, is that you also need that player, the young player, to be the kind of guy that doesn't have a huge ego where they're like, yeah, you guys are great, whatever. I'm this super talent. I don't need to listen to you. I'll you're around me. I'll pretend like I care, but I'm really going to do my own thing. You want a guy that's going to be a sponge and that's going to really take advantage of those opportunities of having those great teachers around him. And that is absolutely Tyler Smith. There's no question about it. I mean, he is He is, as Jason Garrett would say, the right kind of guy in every sense of the word. So, yes, that I'm glad you pointed out, because that is one of those things where there could be some growing pains early. And if that happens, yeah, it's going to suck for Cowboys fans. But I think in the long haul, you're going to be building a pretty good offensive lineman.
If Connor McGovern struggles, then would they kick Tyler Smith back inside and accelerate the Jason Peters timeline as well?
Yeah, that's an interesting question. Not a lot of people are talking about that. That's a possibility. I think that's what would happen. I think that they would. You can't even rule out the fact that if Tyler Smith was playing well, they could always move Jason Peters to guard if they absolutely wanted to go in that direction too. I just think that the easier transition would be, hey, Tyler Smith has played left guard all camp. Let's move you back inside. Peters, you get to left tackle, your more natural position. I believe that would be the way that they would go. That would make, the most sense to me, because I look at the guys that are on the roster, like a Matt Farniak. Like, I don't think that you'd really want to be putting him in there. And then, I don't think you'd want to be messing around with Zach Martin and things like that, because there is a lot of people believe that McGovern's probably best spot is right guard, but he just isn't going to play that year with Zach Martin. I don't think you shuffle that around. I think you keep Zach Martin where he's at. You probably kick Tyler Smith inside and make Jason Peters your left tackle.
I can't imagine Jason Peters at 40 and probably needs a little bit of time to get himself in shape, even though he's a Grizzly Bear veteran, is going to come back to play left guard. There's no scenario, is there, that he'll play left guard?
I can't say no scenario, just because I really think he wanted to play one more year in the NFL. I felt like it just sounds like he feels he has 1 year left. He's a guy from Texas, so I think that there was a little bit of a draw from the Cowboys there. And I don't know if there was a ton of other interest in the league. Now, of course, I say that right now because the games haven't started. Like, you'd be pretty naive to think that we're going to get all the way through Sunday and no team's going to have any offensive line injuries where they would like to call Jason Peters. And that's also why it was smart for the Cowboys to get this thing done as soon as possible, because, there could be a starting left tackle job open immediately on Monday morning for a team that maybe even has better chance of making the playoffs and going deep than the Cowboys do. But from what Jason Peters said, that it's the being from Texas, and then that's also the fact that, he thinks it'd be cool to finish his career with the Cowboys, and that he was going to go to a team that he felt like had a chance to make a run in the playoffs, and he believes the Cowboys do.
John, Michael Gallup working out, and does this mean the Cowboys can maybe not take a deep breath yet, but you'll ride out maybe 1 week or two without him and hope for the best against Tampa and Cincinnati?
That's what I feel like. Today when I saw him, I saw him last week do some resistance core stuff, and that was kind of similar to stuff we saw out in Oxnard. And you can get a little bit from that, but it's still not football. And I thought he was moving pretty well, but then I see him today, and I really thought he was moving well, a lot better than I was expecting. I didn't get the sense that he was going 100% on some of the routes he was running, but I don't think they want him to either. But he was going through the individual drills with just the receiver group, and then right before we had to leave practice, that's when they brought him out with the other receivers in the middle of the field, and Dak was throwing to him, and he looked pretty smooth. So certainly not week 1. I really doubt that week 2, but week 3 is probably where I would say now the ballpark is for when you could see Michael Gallup coming back. But again, you'd hate to rush him out there and then he suffers a setback. So, I see him, like I said, today, first day in individual drills. Hey, looks pretty good to me. I don't know how much more he was able to do. The practice report said limited. That's all great. He could wake up tomorrow and his knee could be really sore, and they could be like, you know what, let's just dial it back a little bit. So, there's still, there's steps to this process, but from what it looked like today, if everything keeps going in the right direction, I think week 3 would be the safe target.
John Machota, theathletic.com, covers the Cowboys in the NFL. Of course, the season begins tomorrow night. Thank goodness. And now all of the seasons we cover, high school, college, and pro, will all converge into one.
Is FSU back, John?
They're not back, but that's probably the best win in the last 5 years, so they got to be at least headed in the right direction, I feel like. But I hate when anybody says that somebody's back, because when anybody, especially with college football, when they're back, if you know college football, you don't even need to say it. You know when they're back. You'll know when Texas is back. Mm-hmm. You'll know when Florida State's back. You'll know when Miami's back. And so I wouldn't say that right now. You'd have to go. They're going to have to win a lot more games than that. But certainly some positive vibes from Sunday night in New Orleans. That's for sure.
Yeah, John.
I know
back
of a fan that was there.
Yeah. See, John was right.
I know.
Yeah.
I mean, the true FSU fans were all in New Orleans, as far as I can tell.
Yeah,
it was a good crowd.
Yeah, back is relative. If you you don't fumble on the one and let them go 99 if you're back. I mean, but
right.
It's nice to get the win.
There's times. I mean, it's not like they were rolling at the end of Bobby Bowden's last 3 or 4 years there, and even in Jimbo's first year or two. But then you started seeing it head in the right direction, and you just knew. You're like, that. The athletes that are on the field, they're, not as many, the stupid penalties and things like that, just playing sound football. Like, I mean, you absolutely know. I just living down here. I always think of, Texas always. Tex fans always want to say, we're back. Texas, you'll know when you're back. You will know. And hey, Texas will find out this Sunday if you think, or this Saturday coming up, if they're back, then they'll play. I'm not saying they're going to win, but they'll play Bama tough. But I don't know. It's fun for fans to say that, but I think it's pretty easy to know. You'll know if a team's back or not.
Yeah, no, you're right. And unfortunately for them, when they beat Notre Dame a few years back with the overtime win, the announcer said that, and of course that came
that's
back.
where it all comes from.
Yep, I know. It came back to haunt him. All right, John, thank you, buddy. Appreciate it. The NFL season starts tomorrow night. Can't wait. Is tomorrow's game on Amazon?
It's on NBC.
NBC, okay. Yes. All right. And then the season, of course, will begin. Garrett, you're a Commanders fan. I hate that name, the Washington Redskins, Washington football team, now the Commanders. Over, under on wins this year?
Oh, man. I would probably say maybe 5 wins.
5-12.
Probably. That's about typical.
God, they are just so disgustingly bad. All right, when we come back, Paul Catalina's top 5. And I have a question, though, before we take the break. Brian Kelly was at a press conference yesterday. I don't know how many of you saw this. Did you see this? Did you hear about it? He's at a press conference, and a reporter's coming in. A couple of them are kind of lingering in. And he was discussing how they were late. And a female reporter, I don't know who it was, I know she's been on Twitter, said something about maybe if you win a game or won the game, we would be here earlier.
It was like he was doing his press conference. She showed up late. He called her out in a joking fashion of, the fact that she was late, and she popped off like she had it cocked back already. Well, if you one more, then maybe we'd be here on time, and that's what happened.
Garrett, I'm going to send you the link real quick, and go ahead, Paul.
Yeah, I mean, Brian Kelly, he got flack last year for doing an old John McKay joke. When he, they asked about his team's execution, he said, "I'm in favor of it." And then, the Twitter world was like, "How could he say that about Notre Dame or the team?" It's like, man, it's been if you know anything about football, it's been a joke for 45 years since the Bucks back in the 70s were so bad. I mean, come on. Brian Kelly's problem as a comedian is he doesn't have very good delivery. So when he tells jokes, I don't think people know it. And again, the other thing is coaches shouldn't really call people out for being late to press conferences because almost all of them are always late to theirs.
Okay, yeah, but I know this.
I dare a Baylor coach to somebody who's got us waiting 45 minutes in the indoor lobby tell us about being 2 minutes late to a press conference. I would pop off too. But in this case, because I've waited hours for press conferences to start. I mean, we all have at some point or another. So, if it was the other way around, that'd be kind of funny to see. But yeah, totally unprofessional. She didn't need to pop off. And I know that the thing is we don't need to make a big deal and dump all over her because they've already talked. They talked it after. If you read the story, that's all in the past already. But yeah, it was very awkward. And I think, Paul, you're right that people don't know when he's delivering a joke. His delivery's not very good. But even if you didn't think, whether he was joking or not, I still think that pop off from her, even if it was just a reaction thing, you don't do that. You don't say that. And I think she has to know that.
What would you do?
Oh, I'd sit her down and say, look, we have to,
or anything.
We have to have a relationship. Now, if you guys were really, just funning with each other, then that's fine.
All right, here it is.
But I would sit her down.
Here it is right here. I think, Garrett.
That we'll open it up to this late arriving media crowd that must have enjoyed the weekend. That's usually $10 that we put in the kitty We'll have a big bash at the end of the year at my place. I don't think it has anything to do with winning. I think it has to do with being on time.
All right, there you go.
Yeah,
all right.
kidding.
Here's the deal. I'm not so sure if I was, and I'm not trying to be overly like, she'd be covering LSU volleyball that week.
Well, it would.
You have to have a relation. It may actually help the relationship, but you have to have access. You don't suck up to him. You don't do that. What he said, I thought was, I do think he was just joking.
He's clearly
joking. Who the hell is she to sit there and say what she said in the first place?
Yeah, well,
I think it's all just too much.
Yeah.
Like, this story is just too much. I think she was wrong, and I don't even want to get into it. You know what I mean? Because it's just like, yeah, she was wrong. That was really unprofessional what she said and popped back with. He was clearly telling a joke. I've seen people rake him over the coals for oh, what a. I'm just like I don't know where people's brains are sometimes, because that was so clearly a joke, even if it wasn't very funny or well delivered. And she was so clearly out of line with her response. And that, to me, is just the story. That's all there really is to it.
I would just say it's a teaching experience, because you can have that little moment, and the one time that you really hope that they're joking is going to be the time that they're not, and then you've got a coach who's mad at you. And believe me, I've been through it, with a certain women's basketball coach here that, used to kind of,
who may or may not be on the same payroll as Brian Kelly.
Yeah. That used to kind of legislate oh, you were at this press conference, not this one and that one. And you're like,
or you covered a men's game.
Yeah, you didn't come to this one. So it gets annoying. And
you have to have a relationship, not a friendship. But you have to be able to, you are cutting off part of the pipeline that you need to cover a team, and that could have happened. Maybe it won't, and I hope not. Isaac Power. Did you see this one? I didn't see this. I don't know when this came out. Is the new single digit, the last single digit, the number one digit?
I didn't see that. No.
Isaac Power is number one, the punter, who's a returning player. So Craig Williams, Isaac Power, Matt Jones, Mark Milton, Christian Morgan, Dylan Doyle, Gavin Holmes, Bryson Jackson, Ben Sims, and TJ Franklin, unless I was just spoofed. All right, now, when we come back, Paul Catalina's top five.
Cars priced right both day and night. Average your car in Texas. Trucks built for you, red, white, and blue. Average your car in Texas. Cars that zoom with lots of room. Average your car in Texas. Count on us, a dealer to trust. Average your car in Waco, Texas.
Stepping into the boots of a U.S. Army officer can add confidence and leadership skills to your son or daughter's career path. See all the things they can achieve in our boots at GoArmy.com. U.S. Army Waco Recruiting Company, 254-598-8131 or 254-776-1543.
It takes time to reach goals. It's a truth that applies to more than sports. It goes for your financial goals as well. You work hard for your money, and you deserve an investment strategy that lines up with your game plan. And Tom Albers, your Edward Jones financial advisor, can help. If your financial investments aren't putting forth the effort you desire, stop by today for a financial review. Tom Albers, 4301 Lakeshore Drive, 254-776-7605. Edward Jones, member SIPC.
From the first workout to the last practice, sports is an incredible challenge. Hi, this is Dan Ingham with the First National Bank of Central Texas, and we're proud to support each athlete, every parent, and our educators. From families, small businesses, to the biggest industry, we're here to help. With remarkable products like First Free Checking, we've got banking ideas that fuel big dreams. The First National Bank of Central Texas. Familiar faces making local decisions.
Member FDIC, Equal Housing Lender.
Baylor Scott & White Southwest Sports Medicine and Orthopedics, the team physicians for Baylor Athletics, diagnosing and treating all sports-related injuries, including concussions. These specialists also provide orthopedic services for athletes and non-athletes alike, whether it's knee or shoulder pain, hand or wrist injury, orthopedic spine care, and even an arthritis and total joint clinic. Trust the doctors Baylor Athletics trusts. Baylor Scott & White Southwest Sports Medicine and Orthopedics wants to get you back in the game.
Automatic Chef Canteen is a full-service micro-market vending and office coffee provider with state-of-the-art vending equipment, a wide variety of products, and offering custom-fitted micro-market vending office coffee solutions for your employee break room. You want a full break room solution and a workplace oasis? Well, Automatic Chef Canteen, locally owned and operated for over 50 years in Central Texas, also includes in-house mechanics on call 24/7 for fast, reliable service and maintenance. Automatic Chef Canteen, 6900 Imperial Drive in Waco, or online at automaticchefcanteen.com.
Shorty's Pizza Shack at 12th and Bagby is a homegrown, locally owned pizza place that's out of this world. Everything from the dough, the sauce, the sausage topping is made fresh in-house. Not to mention the amazing pizza pillows, the chicken wings are to die for. Try the Sikkim sauce, chili cheese fries or tots, plus great specials on food and drink every single day. Shorty's is also the perfect spot to watch the game with your friends. Shorty's Pizza Shack at 12th and Bagby. Tell them Paul sent you by.
This is Paul Catalina's Top 5 at 5:55.
Top 5 Week 2 matchups. I hope that in the future of college football, we can continue to get at least 5 to 6 games a weekend that are like this. But I know that that's not the case because, there's going to be like week 7 where there's one good game and everybody else is kind of in the wasteland because that's kind of how it goes. But I do like that the first, couple real weeks of the season have had some real marquee matchups. So here's top 5 week 2 matchups. Number 5, Houston versus Texas Tech. I've picked Houston in this game. And now after talking to Rob Sellers and then you guys, I feel kind of dumb for doing that, but I'm all in on the Cougars this week. And maybe, here's the thing. Soki, I think I might have picked against Texas Tech because I'm just angry at West Texas right now.
Oh, because of our ill-fated trip to Midland, Odessa. Yeah,
I might just be mad about that. I hope I didn't let my emotions, but I still think it should be a really good game. I think Houston's a step up to from where they were last year, even though Tech handled them pretty well in that game. And this is where we'll see where Tech really is early on under Joey McGuire.
Yeah, I mean, if I remember correctly, last year Texas Tech needed a comeback to, I think, win that game.
Oh, they were like 21 points.
Like they needed a big
number.
comeback.
Yeah.
But, I mean, this is, like I said earlier, I think a game where, Tech should win. They're at home. They're not a rebuilding team. They're a renovating team, I think, at this point, a renovating program. They had some solid foundation. They didn't have to take it all down to the studs and everything like that. So I expect a crazy crowd. I expect the Red Raiders to go 2-0. I do think it'll be a great game. I definitely think Houston has a chance to go and win this game, but I just think after what they went through last week and then now being on the road in a tough environment, that's just a lot for Houston to overcome, in addition to the fact that Tech could also just be a better team on the field as well. I don't think there's a huge distance between the two, so a lot working in Tech's favor in my mind.
Like mirror images.
Yeah. Number 4, Texas versus Bama. And the reason this one is 4th is because I really think that, it's just not going to be that good of a game. I mean, it'll be interesting to see what Texas pulls out early and some of their, skilled players. I do think this could be potentially a game that could be tied 14-14 early on in the game. But I just think Bama's got too much up front and too much depth that Texas simply does not have yet for this to be really a game when it comes down to the second half.
As far as logos, there's none better.
Well, and look, it's great. I hope that
for this week.
Yeah, I hope more CFP expansion, all these things where it maybe benefits you more, and there's not so much punishment for doing it. I hope more logos play each other. I hope they do. I hope that happens because I think it'll be better. I don't want to leave the other guys out in the lurch, but I do enjoy weekends where I can see Notre Dame versus Ohio State, where I can see Texas versus Bama, where I can see Florida State versus LSU. I mean, those two are the definition of just logos right now, but even still, it's great that they're playing each other, and it's fun, and it makes it,
It's why I think I love college football.
Yeah.
I think it's because of games like this. Logos, tradition or not, just teams that are the standard is a very high level, even though Texas has not been there in a while. I love college football to watch a game like this one.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, the build-up wise, I mean, the game might absolutely stink. That's what I hope doesn't happen, and I don't think that it will. I know Alabama's heavy favorites at this point, but there are, a dozen storylines coming out of this game that will be fascinating to go over, and that's just knowing what we know on paper. Like, hey, how does Quinn Ewers fare against Alabama in his very first contest? How does Bijan fare against Alabama? How does how does the Texas defense perform against? Like, there's so many things to learn, and yet we won't have all the answers to every question because depending on the outcome, like there's going to be some different directions this may go. Does Texas get their doors blown off and embarrassed in front of their home crowd, or do they play it tight and give hope and optimism that this thing's on the right track and Quinn Ewers really is the next big Heisman star? I mean, I don't think we really know anything about Texas just yet, so this should be a great telling game in so many ways. And tell us a little bit about Alabama, too, even though their story's kind of the same year in and year out of just being right there at the pinnacle of the sport. But, yeah, great measuring stick. Interesting to see Bama on the road in a non-con game like this. And just a lot of storylines to love to see unpacked this weekend.
Yeah. Number 3, Pitt versus Tennessee, a little ACC SEC matchup here. Pitt with Keaton Slovis coming off the big emotional win in the backyard brawl. Tennessee played Ball State and looked really good as they should have. Tennessee is going to score points. Where I think this was going to be interesting is, can Pitt's defense with Pat Narduzzi, can they slow Tennessee down where they can score with them? Not that Pitt has a bad offense, but I don't think they have an offense like Josh Heupel's and Hendon Hooker. So can Pitt slow them down enough to keep themselves in the game? Or is Tennessee's defense bad enough where it won't matter?
You have this one ahead of Texas, Alabama.
Well, I mean, it's a more evenly matched game.
Okay. All right.
It's a more even. I mean, again, and look, Texas fans, if you lose to Alabama by the spread, which I think it's right now 20 points, then that's actually not a bad loss to Alabama. I mean, most people lose to them by more. So,
yeah, I mean, this should in theory be a better, more evenly contested game. But yeah, I like Tennessee in this game because of the firepower on offense. I think Pitt obviously is going to have more than a puncher's chance. But yeah, I do like Tennessee in this game, and I'm curious just how high scoring it really becomes. How does, to your point, Pitt, limit them offensively as best as possible. Yeah, but I don't have a lot of faith in Slovis and company like going up and down the field at all.
Yeah, can if this is a shootout, then can they really win a shootout, or does that really favors Tennessee? Number 2, Florida versus Kentucky. Look, this is a big deal when Kentucky finally beat Florida after a long time. These are two good quarterbacks going to each other, and Will Levis and Anthony Richardson. Anthony Richardson has burst on the scene. This game is at the Swamp, a place that's very difficult for anybody to win. It's been very difficult historically for Kentucky to win there. Mark Stoops is on the climb here. This is one, and it's really early on, but if he doesn't win this game, then there's no chance of them winning the SEC East.
Well, and again,
which there's probably not anyway because of Georgia.
Yeah,
but
Florida has a great tradition in basketball, and so does Kentucky.
Yeah,
and Stoops has to, if they want to be a football program, right, football school, then this is the kind of game you win, and he's starting to win more of these.
Yeah. Florida's done something that most schools haven't. They've won national titles in both.
Yeah, that's pretty damn impressive.
Yeah, they've done a lot. So as where Kentucky hasn't, most people don't really have that bragging point. And number 1, Baylor versus BYU. Not being a homer here, this is the most evenly matched game to me of the weekend, and the best one of the two best teams that will mirror each other in a lot of ways, scheme-wise, the way that they approach things. We had Kalani Sitake on the show earlier. I think this one is going to be an absolute slobber knocker, and will come down to the last few minutes of the game.
Yeah, we've been asked to do predictions and send them in, and I'm going to wait till the last second. It's not like I'm not going to lose sleep over it. I think Baylor's a slight. I know Brigham Young, Vegas-wise, is a slight favorite. That's how tight this game is. It might be just the fact that they're at home. I can't wait to see how this thing unfolds.
I'm taking Baylor in a close game. I think it ought to be a fantastic little contest. I just like the Bears more overall. I think that BYU might have some as many questions answered as Baylor does after the first week. I mean, they certainly feel great about all the talent they've got coming back. I'm curious to see how healthy BYU is at wide receiver. Because they have been a little bit dinged up there, even though they didn't seem to matter much last week and just tossing around USF. But, yeah, big step up in competition for both. Home field, if you want that to flip the coin for you, then I totally understand that because that's really the only thing separating them, quite frankly, based on what we know right now. But, yeah, I like the Bears, and this should be a great one.
There are bangers. Those are the games that, when you have games like this, are the ones that Paul has highlighted among the top 5. There's some good ones coming up. Pretty soon you have A&M and Miami. And others along the way. over the next 2 or 3 non-conference weeks, and some conferences have already begun. All right, for Jacob Wilson, Jack McKenzie, Emery Winter, Levi Caraway, Garrett Ross, for Craig Smoak and Paul Catalina, I'm David Smoak, our amazing sponsors. You who watch and listen to us, continue to hit the like button, subscribe, spread the news. 365 Sports. And don't forget tonight at 10:30 on the CW channel, every weeknight at 10:30, Sikkim 365 Sports and Sports Tonight.
Ideal MRI is a small family business right here in Central Texas. We're open to support you while lowering the cost of healthcare bills. When you need an MRI, ask your doctor for an Ideal MRI. Visit us at idealmri.com or call us at 833-IDEAL-MRI.